What's up, hockey fans? Welcome to another episode of Snipe Celly. My name is Dan Bradley. Alongside me tonight, Joel Fernino. Joel, the cup has been handed out. The Florida Panthers, your 2024 Stanley Cup champions. Give me, just right off the top of the show, 3 words to sum up that series.
Absolute effing bullshit. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, tell me what team you were rooting for there, Joel.
3 words to by the way, hi, I'm doing all right. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing all right. It's an amazing time of year for hockey. We had the cup awarded last night. We have NHL awards on Thursday. We have the draft Friday, Saturday, and then we've got free agency starting next week. Not to mention the Hershey Bears. I want to get this mentioned in too. Back-to-back Calder Cup champions. They won overtime last night as well. So a big night for Hershey. Shout out to Max Finley, who is a former Peoria Mustang. He was a player there when I was broadcasting, who is one of the trainers on the Hershey Bears. So he's been with that team the last couple of years, and all they've done is win. So congrats, Max, and congrats Hershey.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, no, I mean that it was such an amazing series. That Stanley Cup final was probably one of the most fun in the last couple of years, in my opinion. I mean, even with my second team winning it last year, that was sick. I got my wish. I was in Vegas and I got to watch not just 1 but 2 games in the sports book, and I made money off of both of those. I bet the Oilers. I pulled money. I told Dan this is probably my version of the Jordan flu game. There is a slight chance that I might have COVID. Anyway,
Joel is not doing so great, but we prevail.
So if I sound like Darth Vader at any point, I feel all right. The government's just listening. Like, mark it.
Let's keep it that way.
What? Let's keep what that way?
Keep you feeling good and not Darth Vader-y.
I appreciate that. I am also not your father, so no. In fact, he might be tuning in right now. Or your brother. One of the two.
They might be. It's usually my dad who chimes in.
That's what I'm saying.
Has a comment for us every once in a while, so I'm not sure. I think he's watching.
So it was a blast. Did money line on the Oilers both times, and actually on Game 6 I did money line, and then I also shot in the dark, bet them -1.5, and sure enough.
Yeah, the betting mid-series on McDavid for Conn Smythe was quite the move too, wasn't it?
Oh, I didn't bet it mid-series. I actually bet him for the Conn Smythe before they even won Game 7 of the conference finals.
I mean, we made that bet during what, like Game 4?
What?
Game 5? Game 5, I think we made it.
Of what?
Of the series that we bet on McDavid for Conn Smythe.
Last series or during the cup?
You said during Game 7, or you said before Game 7
of the conference final, not the.
Of the conference final. Okay.
Yeah, before they even.
I put it in before they even series.
Before they even beat Dallas, I put it in that he would win it, and that was when they were going to overtime, or whatever it was. When they were. Oh, I'm sorry. They were heading into the third period, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to make this bet right now. I think I got it at like +360, and I am very happy I did that. I also agree with him getting the Conn Smythe, regardless of betting on it or not.
Mm-hmm. You put up the 4th most points in a single playoff ever.
Yeah.
You break Gretzky's record for assists in a single playoff. He earned it. Like, let's not kid ourselves.
That sentence alone, you can just end it there. You broke one of Gretzky's 30 million records. That alone. That there is no more argument. Anyone can throw an argument at me, and it's invalid when you say that one sentence you just said, that he broke one of Gretzky's records.
Anytime you throw in a Gretzky comment,
it's over. So. And the people that are bitching and moaning about it mostly are just Florida fans or Calgary fans.
Yeah, I really don't understand Florida fans booing McDavid when they announced him for Conn Smythe. I get it. You wanted Bobrovsky to get it. You wanted Barkov to get it. There was nobody who meant more to their team in the playoffs this year than McDavid. They don't sniff the second round without McDavid this year.
And sorry, it's not the NFL, it's not the NBA, it's not the Finals MVP. It is the entire playoffs MVP.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, ESPN. It's not the Finals MVP. It's the playoff MVP.
Well, I believe it's ESPN to also cut away from Barkov lifting the cup right away.
That made me so mad. Like, for those who don't know, I used to work in television on the production side. I was a program and tech director. So I would be the one pushing all the buttons for which cameras and calling the shots for what shots to take. That they didn't have the camera there and that they cut away at the first cup raise for Florida.
Yep.
Like, I'm not even a Panthers fan, and I'm mad about that. Like, I'm livid. That was such an amateurish move.
Truly. Real quick, let's fucking go. Welcome back, you sexy bastards. Thank you, Mark.
Welcome back, Mark.
Dan and I have switched roles. I'm drinking water tonight.
Yeah,
B-Rad.
It's the kind of week where I needed the beer early. So
B-Rad, what's up,
B-Rad?
jerks? Hey, why is there only one like? Let's hurry this up here. And Joey, get the hell out of here with your cats comment. Absolute bullshit. Oh, Justin! Let's go! You haven't tuned in a while. How's it going?
I'm gonna take a swing for everybody who's commenting to say who's tuning in tonight.
Let's go, Justin. Start tuning in more, man. I like your comments on hockey. It was an awesome series. I mean, the Cinderella magic ran out, and for God's sake, McDavid played 25 plus minutes in Game 7. That man was gassed.
While dealing with some sort of abdomen injury that it sounds like is going to require surgery. Leon Draisaitl, we talked earlier about how we thought he might have been hurt.
I'm sorry, did he play? I didn't know he played.
Oh yeah, Draisaitl. Yeah, he played 25 minutes last night too.
Oh, did he? Wasn't really sure. I didn't know he was playing the entire playoffs.
Yeah, he kind of. Well, part of the reason
that was the joke, Dan.
Playing through broken ribs and a broken finger. So
that was the joke. Did you really think I didn't know he played?
I mean, for those who didn't know.
Oh. Well, okay.
for those who didn't get the joke, for those who are tuning in for the first time and don't know how sarcastic you can be.
It's fair. I think everybody here knows how sarcastic I can be.
They should if they don't know by now.
I think even the bots that are viewers know how sarcastic I can be.
Well, Joel, I think we have put it off long enough. We need to get into this mock draft because the NHL draft, as we mentioned, this Friday and Saturday in Las Vegas. I'm sorry that they couldn't do the draft while you were in Vegas.
I know. I would have loved that because it's in the Sphere, too. For those who don't know what the Sphere is, you probably should. But if not, go look it up. It's probably the sickest venue you'll ever see in your life. And it's a bucket list item now, once it was built, that I need to go either see a concert there or some sort of movie or event or something other than U2. U2 played there. U2 sucks. You couldn't pay me to go see them. Anyway.
Well, tell us how you really feel.
I hate U2. Anyway.
I was going to say, the NHL just decided, too, that, like, you don't have to be there for the draft, that they're not, like, hosting prospects, and teams like don't necessarily have to show up. They can, video in, radio call in, whatever.
Glorious. I mean, capitalism is the definition of Las Vegas. Can I tell you really quick, since I was in Vegas, for one drink at the pool, just one. By the way, this is an off-season topic of what's your go-to drink at a pool at a resort. Mine, I'm going to tell you what mine is right now. And it's a Mai Tai.
Yeah, that's probably mine too.
It's a Mai Tai. One 12-ounce one. They had the giant one too, but one 12-ounce, $20.
That's about what I was going to guess.
There's your capitalism right there.
Yeah, because you're not just paying for the alcohol, you're paying for the atmosphere.
Yeah, you don't. That's how Vegas is, and you don't really complain about it. You just accept it. You pay for it. You move on. But it's
B-Rad with the comment here. That sounds more like a rank the blank. I like that off-season ranking your favorite cocktails.
You know what?
I'm gonna come up with that one for you, and we'll put that one together.
I'm gonna do you one better. Joel still hasn't found what he's looking for.
Well played, Tim. Well played.
I don't get it.
Those are U2 lyrics.
Oh, ew. Tim, I love you, but get the hell out of here with those lyrics.
You're barking up the wrong Joshua.
By the way, I'm going to tease. We're in the off season, and we're going to get to this mock draft. But doing the mock draft is literally our kind of like kickoff of the off season. We are in the off season. It's sad. The regular season, the 2023-2024 regular season is over. The Florida Panthers are your Stanley Cup champs. They earned it. It was really cool. By the way, say what you will about Matthew Tkachuk. That post-game interview with Emily Kaplan was amazing. And it's kind of cool that him and Jason Tatum were friends growing up, and they both just won their league's respective championships. That's kind of cool. Anywho, we're in the offseason. I want to tease that we're going to have an offseason episode of all rank the blanks.
I like it.
You didn't know I was going to say that either.
I just say
that is live. Anyway, without further ado, Dan.
I'm looking forward to that in particular because so far I have put together all of the rank the blanks.
Oh, I guess
I feel like you have a couple up your sleeve that you're going to throw at me at some point here.
Yep.
And I'm going to have to blindly rank.
It's going to be an episode of like a rank the blank war. It's just going to be a back and forth shot. Like you do this, I do this, you do this, I do this.
Yeah.
Anywho, Mark, don't worry. The hockey talk does not stop. Sometimes it does.
Yeah, we'll still have hockey talk. It'll just be okay. There's nobody's signed in 2 weeks, nobody's traded in 2 weeks, and training camp is still a month away. It'll be that type of stuff. So.
Yeah, look, we don't take it too seriously because we know there are times during this offseason like there ain't shit going on. We got the draft this week.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, and we got the draft this week. That's what's going on. Which brings us to the 2024 Pod Snipe Celly mock draft.
Let's get it started.
Really quick before you do that, Dan, this was your idea to kick this off last year. Mm-hmm. Obviously, great year to do it. Hawks getting Connor Bedard. It was probably arguably the deepest draft hopefully ends up being the deepest draft we've seen since the 2003 draft.
Certainly up there.
Yeah, hopefully that's how it turns out. And so far, it's off to a decent start there. I'm not going to put it up there yet, obviously. It's only a year in, but it made sense to do it. I have never gone that deep into prospects. You're usually the big prospect nerd. I'm usually like up to the top 10. After that, I don't know shit. So this is the second year in a row where now I have more fun watching the draft when we do stuff like this. And yes, it makes sense because my team sucks, so we're picking high again. But
no, you've had the best of both extremes. You've had 3 cups in 6 years, and now you've had two top two picks in 2 consecutive years. So, and what, three top 5 picks in the last 5? Kirby Doc.
That was 2018.
Wasn't that the 2020 or maybe it's 6 years?
No. No, that was 2018 or 19. It was before. It was before COVID.
Okay, I think 2019 then, but yeah, 3 and 6 years then. So
yeah.
So to mirror the format that we did last year, Joel and I alternated trading picks, and the way that we set this up was. The Minnesota Wild picked 13th. The Blackhawks picked 2nd and 18th. So I took all of the odd-numbered picks. Joel took all of the even-numbered picks. We alternated up and down the board. We do not anticipate when we do this mock draft. We put together, this team might trade back from this spot. But we didn't put together any like dramatic, the Hawks trade 18 and 45 to Minnesota to move up to 13 or something that.
Maybe if we think something like that's going to happen, and most of the time we only really know about that with our own teams. If we really think something like that'll happen, we'll mention it offhand, but it's not something we took into account while doing this.
We didn't build in. So, and this is also not necessarily our personal rankings of these players either.
No.
We tried to go what makes sense as a fit. We tried to go within a reasonable range for where these players would go. But also we didn't want to just go chalk of what, your Scott Wheelers and your Corey Pronmans and your Tankathons, what most of those are coming up with. We wanted it to be our own thing. So
if
there
you
are
didn't
some where
know by
you
now,
might look at it and be confused or concerned, but
yeah,
that's the fun of it.
If you didn't know by now, we are not NHL GMs. Now, we are in the NHL video games, but
yes, but that's much different.
That's much different.
And speaking of trades, we do need to mention one as well. The Boston Bruins sending Linus Ullmark to the Ottawa Senators. So Boston is back into the first round, and that we took a look at it and we went, you know what? The player that we had picked to Ottawa at that spot makes even more sense as a fit for the Bruins. So we didn't even need to change things there. So that was kind of nice to not have to scramble and redo our last, 8 picks, I think it would have been, 25, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Last 8 picks of the first round here. So that all works out okay. But starting with the first overall pick, the San Jose Sharks, taking Macklin Celebrini to the surprise of, really nobody at this point. Celebrini's been mocked as the number 1 player in this class for a couple years now. And it showed in his Hobie Baker year with Boston. He had just a phenomenal season. Some of the best hands in the class, one of the best straight line skaters in the class, 32 goals, 32 assists in 38 games this season. Bronze at U18 Worlds in 23. He's the most complete player in the draft class right now, and San Jose is going to get a good one with Celebrini.
Or they could, shock the world and pick like
Bismack Biyombo.
Yep, exactly. Hey, San Jose could do it, man. It's a San Jose type of move.
I was curious, so I looked this one up. The odds for the first overall pick, if you had to guess what the odds are for Celebrini right now.
I looked at it this morning, so I don't know. It was at least this morning or last night, sorry. Last night around midnight or something. It was minus 5,000.
That is actually much better than what I saw, because I saw minus 20,000.
Oh,
for Celebrini. Like, the sports books think it's a lock. We all know it's a lock.
But
the
what if
GM,
it's not?
the GM before the draft, they were asking him about something to do with prospects, and he outright said, we'll talk with the Celebrini family, and then pause for a moment, and then went, or whoever we happen to take at that spot. But like, everybody knows it's Celebrini at this point. Like
Mark, that is music to my ears. Please retype that in the comments and spam it like 30 times so I can just keep reading it.
Mark, we're beefing. Although that wouldn't be too much of a Shane Wright slide.
No, because Shane Wright
moved, like, he was number 1, and then he ended up going 4th. Casual 3-assist game last night too for Coachella Valley in the AHL for Shane Wright. He's going to be NHL next year.
He'll be just fine. Exactly.
He's ready.
Aww.
Kid's all right.
That's adorable.
I love you too, Mark, but we're beefing if you want Macklin Celebrini to go to Chicago.
I mean, everybody wants Macklin Celebrini to go to Chicago.
I will strike you.
Moving on. Speaking of
Chicago,
who is going to Chicago, I have us taking, probably to nobody's surprise, Artem Levshinov from Michigan State University, defenseman. I mean, he's literally the absolute undisputed best defenseman in this draft. He's been considered physical profile. He's got all the tools to become a number 1 defenseman. I actually would say he's up. Depending on how training camp goes, I could see him starting the year with us. Obviously, we're not in a rush. We're not in win now mode. So I get it. After Macklin Celebrini, we've talked about this ad nauseum. Everyone kind of knows this. After that, the whole kind of consensus is all over the damn place.
Yeah, unlike last year where we had, Leo Carlson and
Nobody saw that one coming, to be honest with you.
I mean, we saw him as like top 3.
Oh yeah,
like Bedard is going number 1, and then Fantilli and Carlson are like in that next tier, and then the tiers were very obvious for who was in what tier. Not the case at all this year.
No, and I mean, but in a way, because like most of the things you're reading from a lot of the guys you mentioned, wherever, it pretty much has us kind of flipping between Demidov or Artem Levshinov. I have sort of heard Caden Lindstrom's name get thrown in there too, but I agree with your sentiment that you were saying actually to me before the show. Like, if we're gonna take a forward, take Demidov. I don't even care. Just if we're gonna go forward, take Demidov.
You want someone who has the upside to play on Bedard's wing if you're going a forward.
Exactly. So
Demidov is that guy.
And the thing to me is our biggest hole for longer than, even, longer than this rebuild has been defense. Now, our pipeline is looking very strong with defense, but adding a guy like Artem Levshinov, I mean, people keep saying, like, if he continues on his path, like, he could be a Norris Trophy winning defenseman, and we need another one of those. I miss Duncan Keith so much.
Well, not only that, but also he plays the right side. So I shouldn't say all of, but a lot of the prospects that the Hawks have invested early draft capital in have been left shot defensemen.
Yep.
Levshinov being able to play the right side, I mean, that's your number 1 right D, presumably for the next decade.
Yep.
Once he makes his NHL debut. He's that good.
Yeah, exactly. And, he was ranked, 5th in highest ceiling for NHL scouts by, like, elite prospects.
Yeah, and that was of all skaters in the class, not just defensemen.
No, exactly, not just
the highest ceiling of every skater in the class.
And second
the only
highest
defenseman in that top 5.
Yeah, and the second highest floor behind Celebrini, which, of course, that makes sense. That's kind of why, like, all of that kind of sells it to me that the 2 names have been Demidov and Levshinov. Since they flipped that card and we got number 2. Those have been the 2 names. Like I said, I heard Caden Lindstrom. I maybe, but I just think if we go forward, it's going to be Demidov and winger and everything like that. I still think we're going to end up. You take at 2, you kind of have the pick of the litter, but taking just this highly touted of a defensive prospect, this is, to me, he could end up being way better than we're trying to project a Korchinski, and even better than what Alex Vlasic already looks like. And if that's what we're rolling for our top 3 in the future, sign me up.
Yeah, you've got those 3. You've got Sam Rinsell, you've got Ethan Del Mastro in the mix as well. But for this to really be somebody to put you over the top defensively, it's a pick that just makes a lot of organizational sense. It's a pick that when you talk about, is he the best player available? To me, he is at that spot.
Yeah, all around, exactly.
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense. And I think, I mean, either way, you can't go wrong with taking either Levshinov or Demidov. You can't really go wrong either way.
No.
I mean, now if you go somebody way, way off the board at that pick, maybe. But that's a Bowman move.
Exactly. That's not a Davidson move at all to do something like that. Davidson move would be, he's going to potentially, and we'll get to this, maybe he trades out of 18 up to, like you said, with Minnesota for 13. Maybe he goes to 50.
I threw that one out there because somebody here early in the draft is going to fall. And it's going to be somebody that the Hawks are going to look at and go, dang, we have the draft picks. Let's go get this guy.
I mean, the thing with it that I want to cover really quick as we get through this, like, for the record, whoever hasn't watched our mock draft, we usually spend quite a bit of time on, like, the top 10, and then we'll speed it up after that.
This is going to be a long show, though. So be ready for that.
Hang in there. But with the Hawks, like, we have such a wealth of draft picks, but at the same time, there's a bit of bloat. Hence why we even made the trade up from What were we at
It
originally?
was 20 to 18.
20
like
to
you
18.
moved up 2 spots.
So like moved 2
but
spots, but you traded 2 picks to do it. Like we have a bloat of picks. I think it's 6 in the first 3 rounds.
6 or 7, something
Yeah,
like that.
something
It's a
like
lot.
that. I'd have to look at the like updated look because we had it was 20 and I believe a 4th.
Well, hey, in our last week of being able to use cap friendly here, so yeah,
go
it
ahead.
is 6. So it's 2 firsts, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, nothing in the 4th, Calgary in the 5th, and then your own 6th.
Yeah, and nothing in the 4th because that was part of what we gave up to get to 18, or was that it might have been a 2025 5 pick. Either way, we're you don't want to bloat. You don't want to bloat your picks. And that's exactly why Davidson made that trade. And that's why there's been a lot of talk of he could, if he was tempted to do it last year. Luckily, Oliver Moore fell to him and he didn't have to.
Are you ready for this? That was actually part of the Brandon Hagel trade.
What was?
The 4th round pick this year was part of the Brandon Hagel trade.
Oh. I mean, that trade, I still love that trade. Hagel's great. Love Hagel, but that trade was incredible.
I mean, it's worked out pretty well because it got you Oliver Moore. It got you the number 20 pick that you have now moved up to 18 to get.
So it'll get us. Stay tuned for what it might get us.
Yeah.
I could definitely see us trading up to maybe a 13 if Davidson falls in love with someone and he's a little too afraid that they're not gonna fall and he's not gonna have the same luck that we had last year.
Mm-hmm. So Mateo chiming in here to say, 1, Lev Shinov should go back to school. I would agree on that point. 1 more year at Michigan State.
That's fine.
And then says number 2, Buium is the best defenseman in this draft, but he's left-handed and a legal midget. Yeah, any defenseman under the rule is any defenseman under 6 feet is a legal midget, and any defenseman over 6 foot is a massive human. Like that's the cut line.
I mean, that's
Mateo. Cheers.
Yep, Mateo. I agree, and that's the thing. He's probably gonna go back to Michigan State. Please do. Actually, I made the Duncan Keith comp. Duncan Keith, Michigan State.
Yeah, the pipeline is there.
I know.
Mark's saying to support Puckpedia. Yeah, that's going to be the next iteration of Cap Friendly is going to be Puckpedia, and I've been using them for the last couple of years for injury reports and news there. Now they're going to start doing that. Number three overall.
To the Anaheim.
And this is where I think there are a couple points in our draft where people are going to go, what is he doing? What is he talking about? What are these guys? These guys don't know what they're doing. Again, reminder, we're not doing what everybody else is doing. Mm-hmm. Some of our picks are going to be a little bit off the board, but we want to put our own spin on things and logic into them. I have the Anaheim Ducks taking Calder Yakimchuk at number 3 overall. And I know this is going to turn some heads. We just talked about Demidov as a high upside guy. We talked about Zeev Buium and Zane Parekh as high upside defensemen. And to me, Anaheim, they're probably going to take a defenseman. That said, I look at what Calder Yakimchuk brings as a 6'3", 200-plus pound right shot defenseman with all of the defensive prospects that the Ducks have. Yakimchuk fits that profile. If for some reason Chicago takes Demidov, Anaheim sprints to the podium and grabs Levshinov, like without a second thought.
Right.
But I look at the types of players that Pat Verbeek has historically liked to draft.
Carter Quackham Duck.
That's pretty good. Comment of the night goes to Tim.
That's pretty good, Tim.
Who is a Ducks fan, so that's perfect.
That makes very.
Tim, I need to know how long you've been sitting on that one because you haven't said that to me at all yet.
And actually, I mean, Tim being the Ducks fan, I kind of want to see what he thinks of your pick.
I can tell you that he's been high on Yakimchuk, but he and I talked this morning, and he is convinced that they're going a slightly different direction than Yakimchuk. But again, looking at organizational needs, looking at Verbeek's draft history, and looking at how he does not necessarily take chalky picks. Like last year, Leo Carlson at number 2 to the Ducks wasn't talked about until about 2 days before the draft, where there was the real steam of where are they going. And the Ducks camp has been very quiet about what position group they're even targeting, let alone what players are on their board. It would not surprise me at all to see Verbeek make another surprising, splashy type of move like this to go get a player that fits the profile that he likes. With that in mind, I think Yakimchuk kind of makes some sense in that regard.
For the record,
66 games this season for the Calgary Hitmen, and he had 30 goals as a defenseman.
Yeah, it's
again offensive upside and from the right side. Plus, he's 6'3" and he hits.
Yeah, and I mean, even to put it into perspective, Dan's, I guess, reach, not really a reach, like we said, this could go anywhere.
Oh, I'll admit it, it's a reach.
Well, just to help out on FanDuel, I just got it,
and
I decided to take your word for it and do it. Put a tiny little amount of schmeckles on it. It is at currently Carter Yakimchuk third to the Ducks is at plus 2,000.
So again, he's far from a favorite at that spot, but I think there's potentially some betting value there.
I mean, I agree. I did it.
Joel, let's get to your pick here at fourth overall.
Yeah, and pretty much at nobody's surprise whatsoever, Columbus literally looks up and says, how in God's name did we just get this lucky? And they sprint to the podium and say the words Ivan Demidov from SKA St. Petersburg. I mean, look, Dan said it. We didn't want to stay chalk. And in this case, in our draft, the way the board fell, it was defenseman heavy in the top 3 outside of Macklin Celebrini. So who's next that is just sitting there at 4 for the Blue Jackets to just be like, oh, okay, 2 years in a row that usually a consensus second overall just falls to us. Okay. Fantilli last year, and now this year, Demidov. Here's the thing. I'm plugged into the Hawks. Levshinov isn't just a guess. It really does truly seem like that is the direction they are going. I'm not going to go. We already talked about it, but they even had like a prospect dinner with only Levshinov. Like it just the writing's on the wall, right? So that's not going to happen. And Dan's long shot, not really a long shot because the Ducks are prone to doing it, right? So then here come the Blue Jackets, and it's weird to see someone who was touted in many draft like previews as the most dynamic and creative player in the draft, and also on the Elite Prospects draft guide, they even said, and potentially the most dynamic and creative player to ever play in the MHL. So that's pretty huge praise from the Scouts.
Offensive skill set is unreal. And for as good a player as Celebrini's all-around game is, Demidov is the better offensive player between the two. Now, just by virtue of being a center, his defensive upside, Celebrini's, is going to be higher. Demidov for offensive game, though, the best in the class.
Yep. And to your point too, they had him ranked as the second best transition forward, and that pretty much that's where that comes from. So in 30 games played, he had 23 goals, 37 assists, 60 points, pretty good. And then 17 games played in the playoffs, 11 goals, 17 assists, 28 points. Like the kid is incredible. Here's the other thing. The whole Russian aspect does come into play. Not as much as Matvei Michkov, who will be in the NHL next year. So
yeah, all that overblown. We're going to have to wait 3 years for him. Don't take him.
1 year.
He slides down the board. Nope, he's here.
The Flyers have a horseshoe firmly planted up their ass with that. That's incredible.
Next year's Rookie of the Year class, the Calder Trophy voting is going to be outstanding.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, in addition to Celebrini, in addition to possibly Demidov coming in there, in addition to Matvei Michkov, then you've also got, oh, by the way, Logan Stankoven, in the mix. The year, like you saw him at the end of the year and in the playoffs.
Yep.
And now he has his first full year of eligibility, and he's
Yep.
I am licking my chops at seeing where those Calder odds are going to fall when they open up, and I'm going to pounce on somebody.
Oh,
and I think Stankoven right now is my pick, but Michkov, oh boy.
Yeah, that's going to be incredible. And the same can be said for Demidov. Like he does so much. He's a committed 200-foot player. He's also pretty physically engaged. Like he does everything.
He does, but the offense, man,
the offense
it's hard to come by.
It really is. And I just don't see him falling. I've heard talks of him falling to like 6 or 7, and I'm like, I just don't think that whole, stay, be wary of taking those Russian players. Like, I just don't.
You know what the other thing is too, right? As Mateo brought up earlier, legal midget, because he was listed at 5'10" until like the combine, where he was listed as 6 foot and half an inch.
Yep.
Yeah. So
6 foot and 192 pounds, that's a pretty good size to keep your speed.
Yeah. And if he's 192 pounds and he's still 5'10", 5'11", like, okay, fine, not a big deal. He's still strong enough to not get knocked off pucks.
I'm sorry too, like, I may not be a Blue Jackets fan, but like, give me a line of wow, why did his name just
Fantilli?
Yeah, Fantilli, and then having Demidov on his left, like that sounds kind of gross.
You could conceivably go Patrick Laine, Adam Fantilli, and Ivan Demidov, and just have Fantilli dump pucks off to whichever winger's open.
Patrick Laine is going to be a Blackhawk, so don't worry about it.
Everybody's going to be a Blackhawk. Just ask Joel. Mitch Marner's going to be a Blackhawk.
Connor McDavid is going to be a Blackhawk.
Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl, because he's headed to free agency sooner than that. So then those two will team up.
Hey. Even though this is just tongue-in-cheek, the Draisaitl thing could happen.
Should we move on to number 5?
Let's move on to number 5.
All right. At number 5, with those guys off the board, the Montreal Canadiens are on the clock, and I had them going with Caden Lindstrom. We've mentioned his name a couple of times already here tonight. Big physical forward, 6'3", 214, a left-handed centerman. 32 games played, 27 goals, 19 assists. The big concern here was that he missed part of the year with a back injury. And if not for that injury, there's argument for him at number 3 to the Ducks. There's argument for him at number 2 to the Blackhawks. He's that talented of a player, but anytime you're dealing with back injuries, you never know what sort of a recovery you're going to get. You never know how that's going to slow up a prospect's development. Broken arm, broken leg, even easier to predict than back problems, and back problems have a way of coming back and returning and causing more problems down the line. That said, Caden Lindstrom, if healthy for Montreal, is going to be a force in their top 6 forward group if he stays healthy. The guy is a power forward scoring machine. He is somebody who, again, we've talked about this a lot with players in our top 5 here. He is not the type of player that they have in their system. And when you look at how they've committed to Cole Caulfield, getting somebody with size that can play on Caulfield's line is going to be important. Protect your assets.
Tim is just killing it.
Tim's on a roll.
Canadian Lindstrom.
I love it.
It's pretty good.
So I went with.
I'm afraid of Russians. Better play it safe with NCAA guys instead. Those guys always.
Yeah, right. Isn't that how that always works? Amazing. And we just talked about with him going to the Ducks at 3. If the Ducks decide that they're going to move on from Trevor Zegras, which that has been rumored for a little while here, and the Boston Bruins have been one of the teams that have been rumored to be looking to go get Trevor Zegras.
Tim and Mark chime in on that potential there.
If Zegras somehow ends up out the door, Lindstrom to 3 at the Ducks, lock it in.
Yeah. No, that's a good point, which
Mhm.
hurts my bet. But I mean that
Right.
could be.
but again, if we're talking strictly upside, it's absolutely there with Lindstrom, especially if he's healthy. And it would not surprise me if 3 years down the road, Celebrini and Demidov and Lindstrom, all three of those guys in the NHL, it would not surprise me to see Lindstrom have point totals very, very close to those guys. It really wouldn't. So,
Yeah,
um,
high praise.
high upside, high skill level, in a big physical center that can compete against the other top centers that you're going to have in the Eastern Conference. You want a guy who's going to have the strength to try and knock Austin Matthews off a puck? Lindstrom is a guy who could do that.
Then Matthews will cry about it, but that's okay. The tears
Oh,
will
boy.
get caught by Zegras trade rumors, more like Oh.
And no, Tim is not a Bruins fan.
Oh
Tim's
no,
a
he is a
fan,
Ducks fan. He's a Ducks fan.
But still,
I'm saying that whole Zegras Boston thing. That's why I'm saying Ducks Boston. You guys talk it out in the comments.
Well,
Dan,
Joel, the Arizona. The Utah Hockey Club. As they're going for
really
next
quick.
year.
Yeah, really quick. Utah Hockey Club is such a stupid name.
Oh, are you kidding? I love it.
It's stupid.
I like it.
Stick the whole hockey club or insert sport here club team name. Leave it to soccer. Let them do it. It makes sense for them. Hockey, no. They need to be. You need cool names. We just had two newer teams, newish now. Kraken, Golden Knights, both sweet names, both sweet themes. They both made sense. I know it's only temporary, and quite frankly, I really hope to God it's only temporary while they vote on something else. Like the Venom. The Venom is cool.
Working on a few.
There was
another
another
Yeti
one.
is probably what it's.
The Yeti is really cool. I like that one too. And there was one other one. There was a third one I really liked. I'd have to look at the voting ballot again.
Blizzard, maybe?
That's what it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah, Blizzard. Blizzard's pretty cool. All right. But anyway, with Utah's first pick in franchise history, or at least in Utah franchise history, they go with the non-flashy pick, defenseman Sam Dickinson of the London Knights. So, my opinion, again, we're not GMs, but even before I get into the actual player stuff, I think when you're a new team with this high of a draft pick, the safer pick instead of the flashier pick is always picking one of the best defensemen that's on the board, which there are quite a few. You can't really go wrong. There's still Zane Parik is still on the board. Anton Saleyev is still on the board. Like there's other really good defensemen that are on the board.
There's going to be a run from anywhere from 3 to 12. Like there will be a run of at least 3 picks in a row that are defensemen.
Exactly. It's a pretty, from our research, it's a pretty deep defensive draft. So it makes sense to me. I went with Sam Dickinson. He's 6'3", 203. So 6'3", I mean, that's, what did we just say? Above 6 foot. So that dude's a giant. He's an excellent skater. He's been considered one of the best skaters in the class. As a defenseman, in 68 games played, he put up 70 points, 18 goals, and 52 assists in the playoffs, 4 goals, 9 assists for 13 points on the Knights. Look, I think it's a cool pick. It makes sense. You kick off your franchise, your first ever true rookie with defenseman, right? And that to me makes a lot of sense. Now, where you can question me is where scouts have questioned kind of some of his game. His hockey sense they've kind of questioned a little bit, saying he's kind of always had the ability to like skate out of issues without having to make a hockey play, right? He hasn't really been tested as much. So consistency is a little bit of a concern. But overall, Elite Prospects says, the tools are all there. And I mean, I like this. His comp is like a Noah Hannafin, which to me, pretty good, man. Sam first Pickens, son. Just keep these coming.
Keep them coming, Tim.
Please keep these coming. But yeah, I mean, Not to mention he's got a lot of potential as like a good rush stopper, player starter. He's very good in the neutral zone, big transition defenseman. He's got the 4-way mobility. So I mean, the tools are there. I think it's a pretty safe pick for the Arizona Utah Hockey Club. Add that to that roster that's going to Utah. I think it makes a lot of sense.
And they just spent an early draft pick last year, 6th overall, taking Dmitry Simashev, another big physical 6'4" defenseman from Russia.
Yep. So you basically potentially get your core.
Yeah, your defensive group is really starting to come together and take shape.
Yep. You're
trying to build the team from the net out, especially knowing that you've already got Logan Cooley and Dylan Guenther to build around.
Yep.
There are some forwards there that make it easier to take a defenseman at 6 overall.
Yep.
There are some other guys that potentially could go in this range if they decide to go forward. I do think Berkeley Catton would make a lot of sense. I think Beckett Seneke would make some sense as well if they were looking to go forward here. But Sam Dickinson, I guess the only other player that to me would make sense here would be Anton Saleyev, and that's if you're pairing him with Saleyev and Simashev to be your true top pairing. And Saleyev, we'll get to him later because he's coming up here soon in this mock.
Spoiler!
It's 6'7" defenseman to have 6'4" on one side, and he's the shorter defenseman.
Hey, too many spoilers.
It's not a spoiler. I'm just saying, if Utah were to make that pick, they could have a 6'4" defenseman, and he's the shorter one on the line by 3 inches.
Yeah,
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, we just said 6'3" was a giant for defensemen. So
yeah,
so 6'7".
Speaking of that run on defenseman, the Ottawa Senators at number 7 take Zane Parekh from the Saginaw Spirit. I am very high on Zane Parekh. I think he might be the second best defenseman in this class. He's got that kind of upside. He is the best offensive defenseman in the class. 66 games, 33 goals, and 96 points with 11 points in 13 playoff games. Yeah. He's 6 foot. He's 181. He's a right shot. He fits Ottawa's need for a defenseman on the right side. You've got locked in Chikrin, Shabbat. Their left side they have figured out, but it's getting somebody who can play the right side and especially offensive upside. Ottawa needs defensemen who can contribute offensively. Just the way that their system works, you got to have it. And having someone who could theoretically play off of Shabbat, Parekh fits that mold. One of the best 4-way mobility players in the class as well. The passing ability is there. The hockey sense is there. He's what you want in a top 10 pick. And for him to be there for Ottawa at 7, I think they'd be quite happy getting Parekh to add to their core.
Yep. And we continue the run on defensemen because here comes the 6'7" giant going to the Seattle Kraken, taking Anton Saleyev. Sorry. Silly. Yeah, like you said.
Hang on, we got to get back to our last couple here.
Oh, yeah.
Ottawa Rec.
Okay, you fell off.
That's a tougher one.
Yeah, that's a tougher one. You're 3 for 4.
750 batting average. That'll get you the Hall of Fame.
It's pretty good. It's way better than any Cubs player. Anyway,
it's better than Bobrovsky's save percentage games 4 through 6.
But please give him the Conn Smythe. Anyway. Parekh has Quinn Hughes skating with Cale Makar lethality from the circles in it. I totally agree. It's kind of why, after we finalized it and I had picked Sam Dickinson, I'm like, Seattle screwed this up. I think, in my opinion, made that happening. So, do I think that's really what's going to happen? I don't know, probably not. But
somebody on the Minnesota Wild subreddit mentioned a different forward that the Wild would take at 13 over Zane Parekh with Parekh on the board. And I about put my fist through the computer reading that. Like it's just disgusting. Like if Parekh is there at 13, something went very, very wrong.
Not to pause. I won't spend too much time since we kind of talked about Celly already. But who was it? Who was the forward that they were picking over?
They talked about Konsta Helenius and Michael Brandzeg-Nygård.
I don't know who the hell that second guy is.
guys that I like, guys that I think will be good players, but over Parekh. Come on now.
Like Constas or whatever, fine.
Konsta Helenius.
Konsta Helenius, fine. Mm-hmm. I don't know who the hell you just said on that second one. It sounded like you're...
Yeah.
Are you
Spoiler
sure
alert, Joel did not take Brandzeg-Nygård with one of his picks for one of his teams.
That's 3 times now that on this podcast, I feel like all you did was lag out and random letters spat out of your audio.
I texted you about 3 months ago, and I said the Hawks are not allowed to take him. He is this year's Oliver Moore. He is this year's Frank Nazar. He needs to stay away from Chicago.
And when he texted me that name 3 months ago, I said, okay, Dan's drunk because he just randomly typed his thumb along his keyboard. He's got 17 letters in his last name. None of them are vowels. Anywho.
Yeah, so at 8,
Seattle Kraken. Yep, Saleyev to the Kraken. I mean, we talked about how big he is. He's and I actually, you and I both agreed on this. He is kind of one of the hardest players to place. Among this little run of defensemen here, this little run, he went third out of the 3 we picked in this run here. But he's an outstanding skater, even for that massive 6'7" frame, 207 pounds. He is not a point scorer whatsoever. He's going to end up probably, he would be more of a defensive defenseman. 3 goals, 8 assists for 11 points in 63 games played in the KHL. So if you're picking, if you're a Kraken fan, you're not sitting there going, oh, hell yeah, we got a defenseman that's going to be putting up 80 points a year. No, he's going to just be
that's your Zane Parekh if you want to go that route.
Exactly. He's going to be your shutdown guy. He can cover literally any area of the ice in the blink of an eye, especially with that large frame and that large reach.
Yeah, he barely has to take 2 strides, and he's covered half the zone.
Exactly. Like I said, really good skater despite his size. Really hard hitter. So you get that.
Yeah, you can't be 6'7" and be soft. You gotta be strong on pucks and he is.
Not that I'm saying he could be as good. His comp was Nikita Zadorov, which makes sense. But with that size, and I'm not saying he's going to be like this. Mark will kill me if I say if he's going to be anything like this, but he's your Zdeno Chara type, just probably not as good.
Yeah. I mean, how many defensemen can you really point to and say we're as good as Chara at any point in their career?
Right.
It's not a ton.
No, but I just think Seattle's roster kind of lacks that type of player. They don't have a lot of physicality. On defense, they're kind of all over the place, but they don't have that true just shutdown defenseman. Don't worry about the offensive side of things. Just true shutdown defenseman. Take everything out of the zone. That's kind of why I think this might be a good fit. And we saw this year, their defense was kind of it regressed hard after that their inaugural year of them making the second round. That's pretty. Yeah. You want to move on to 9?
Yeah, the Calgary Flames at number 9.
I wanted to get to this really fast because I kind of love the poetry of this.
If Carter Yakimchuk is still on the board here,
hold on.
Nope.
Anton Seleyev, you're back at it. That's pretty good. Okay, go ahead.
Number 9. If Carter Yakimchuk is still on the board, this gets really tough, knowing that Yakimchuk was playing with Calgary in the minors. They've had their eyes on Yakimchuk for a long time. But somebody that they've also had their eyes on for a long time is Tej Iginla, who I have them taking at number 9.
Why would they have their eyes on Tej Iginla? Why would Calgary
when you're Jerome Iginla's kid, yeah, that's going to be a factor here. And I think it makes too much sense to not take Tej Iginla here. Elite pace to his game, outstanding shooting ability because as you might have guessed, when your dad is Jerome McGinley and you have him to teach you and show you the ropes on the way up, Tej is going to be pretty darn good. Good puck skills, high-end creator. He's not a great skater, but he's a good skater, which, again, that's kind of like the one knock on his game, if you want to call it that. But even there, it's still above average skating ability, and it projects well for moving on to the next level and being a solid top six forward at the NHL. The skating can get him there. The shot will keep him there. That's kind of where things are at. He can play center. I think he probably projects a little more as a winger, just so that he can have some more space out wide to create and shoot the puck from an angle instead of trying to park in front of the net and play that type of style. But again, you're getting a top six forward. You're getting a legacy pick. It makes too much sense for Calgary, in my mind, to not like it. It makes sense for them to take him far more than it does to take somebody else here in that spot. So, Tej Ginlet 9 is the pick there. What do we got?
The N in Iginla stands for nepotism. That's
oh boy.
Oh my god. That's a very good one.
Oh, Mark. This is going to be at least a 2-hour show. This is going to be a long one.
Last year, I think we finished right around 2 hours.
We were right around the 2-hour mark. And now the Hawks have 2 first-round picks instead of 3. So we'll go maybe an hour 45.
What? We didn't have 3 last year.
Didn't you?
No. That was 2 years ago.
Oh, that was 2 years ago? Okay. Well,
and that wasn't even... They didn't have 3. They had 0. And then heading into the draft, they got 3.
That's right, because that was
that was DeBrincat getting traded for what turned into Kevin Korchinski. Frank Nazer came in there as well. Anyway.
Thankfully, no, Mark. We are not doing all 216 picks in 7 rounds. Joel would kill me if I even proposed it.
I would just hang out at that point. Like, outside of the first round, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So
we're on our own. I'm on my own after that.
Yeah, Dan is, like I said, Dan is the prospect nerd. I nerd out over it slightly, just right up to the top 15. After that, it starts to fall off a little bit. I know a little bit about him, but still. And speaking of that, at 10, we've said his name.
Mark, yeah, send this over my way, and I'll take a look and I'll let you know. But I'm very curious to see what Boston does, because until yesterday, before the Ullmark trade, Boston didn't have a pick until the 4th round.
Right.
So they're gonna not only are they gonna have to wait, but they're gonna have to really hit on the picks that they do make.
Right.
The rest of the way here.
All right. So with the 10th pick, rounding out the top 10, the New Jersey Devils select Berkeley Catton, the center from Spokane. Very effective off the rush. I mean, look, and I'm gonna get to this too. This is a name that there's a case to be made that he could go in the top 5.
Yeah. Basically anybody in the top 10, you could argue it should be a top 5 pick.
Most likely, yeah. He's a dynamic puck crushing forward. Good handling skill, manipulation, pace to slice through all opponents, drive the net, open passing lanes. I guess the only thing that puts him a little further down, rounding out the top 10 for me, is there's the question of, can a lot of that translate to the NHL? But with that said, in 68 games played for Spokane, 54 goals and 62 assists. Good enough for math, 116 points. And in the playoffs, he had 4 assists in 4 games played. So point per game in the playoffs too. The whole thing there, like I said, the other thing, the little hit on him is like there's a lack of patience that's been cited on his end. But
he's twitchy. Like he wants to go 100 miles an hour.
Yeah. Now, to be fair, and I've read this a little bit, about Spokane, looking at other prospects too. He didn't have a lot of help So that could really be why he was a little twitchy.
No, he absolutely did not have
Yeah.
much help around him, and still to put up those kind of numbers without having a ton of help.
And yet he
It's
still put up
impressive.
116 points. Like that's pretty damn good. He's 5'11", 174 pounds, left hand shot. Like
at the risk of going over the line here, watching Caitlin Clark in the WNBA and how she will make plays that are so much faster than what her teammates are doing. Like, to me, that was Catton this last year.
Yep.
Just thinking through the game faster and processing things faster than the players around him. I see some of that to Berkeley Catton's game the same way we're seeing it with Caitlin Clark right now.
Yeah.
And I do think it's a bit of an unfair knock on both of them that's the case. But, I mean, the upside is 100% it's there.
The upside's huge. And look, New Jersey already has a nice little wealth of centers. They do need some help because clearly they very much underachieved last year. They were hurt, so it makes sense.
But yeah, the idea of going Jack Hughes, Timo Meyer, Berkeley Catton as your 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Potentially up the middle.
Yeah.
I don't hate that.
No, I don't hate that at all. And actually his comps too, we talked about him earlier in the show. Logan Cooley.
Yeah.
And Troy Terry for Tim. That's another comp for Berkeley Catton. Yeah, I mean, look, there's a lot like
who did Tim go with for the name here?
Oh yeah, I want to see the name.
Catton Clark.
New Jersey.
I would have gone with Settlers of Catton.
I told you that one.
It's a good one.
Settlers of
Catton. And to Mark's point here, surprised that New Jersey made the trade for Markstrom. I'm impressed that they made the trade for Markstrom and also didn't have to give up a first-round pick this year to have to pull that one off. They can wait till next year when they're going to be a healthier, deeper team.
I can't believe we didn't talk about that. I love that trade.
No, we were going to, but then we just wanted to jump into the draft. I figured
I love that move for New Jersey, and I love this move for New Jersey, because like I said, like there's like, look, a lot of the guys we just brought up in the top 10, any of them could go in the top, or they could go around 5, 6, whatever. But I don't know. I think just based on a lot of that, like the whole questioning of can this transition to the NHL, that's why I can see him sliding, but I don't see him sliding any further than this.
Another player who entirely possible he goes before pick 11, Steve Buium, out of the University of Denver, just won a national championship with Denver, was a huge part of that team. Incredible high-end offensive skill, one of the best transition defensemen in the class. This one surprised me a little bit. So Elite Prospects and their guide to the draft, and they have 100 some odd players that they
where do you think I read most of my notes?
It's like 2,000 pages of scouting report. It's insane, and I love it because
you sent it to me, and even my newly built supercomputer had trouble opening it. That's how big it
is.
Yeah,
it takes a minute to load because it's that deep. This fascinated me. Their comps for Steve Buium were Jared Spurgeon and Josh Morrissey. Two players who, from a skill set, Josh Morrissey is 6 foot 193. Jared Spurgeon is 5'9", 166. That's a big range for your player.
Jared Spurgeon's that short?
Oh yeah.
I did not realize that. Wow.
He plays bigger than he is. He is 5'9", 166.
I did not realize he was only 5'9".
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, he is not a tall defenseman at all. And for Steve Buium, who is 6 foot 185, closer to Morrissey on that comparison than Spurgeon. But again, very skilled defenseman, going to be a top 4 defenseman for somebody here. And for Buffalo, who, they've already put a lot of talent or a lot of draft capital into defensive talent over the last couple of years. Rasmus Dahlin, Owen Power. If you're looking at the board, to me, he's the best player available at this spot. And you can never have too many good defensemen in your system. If one of those guys becomes a trade chip later on, so be it. But get the talent there. Get them developing. You're already seeing Darlene's development this last year into becoming truly one of the top defensemen in the league.
But Dan,
they can do that with William.
But Dan, I thought that Darlene was a bust because he wasn't a superstar 2 years in.
Yeah, he didn't put up 5,000 points in his second season in the league, so he's a bust. He's a defenseman. So
Bust.
Speaking of things, make me more mad than that. Seeing people write off prospects after 2 years because they aren't scoring at a point per game pace.
Oh, I'm ready for if and when. All right, I'm out, Grish. Oh, bye, Tim.
See you, Tim.
Thank you for the puns. So,
Mateo. If Zeev is on the board at 11, I am offering Rossi plus for the 11th. Wow.
Whoa! Hot take.
For top 10 pick Marco Rossi. That's
wow.
I would really have to think about that one.
Would you do that? No. On the spot, would you do it? You have 10 seconds to answer.
I say no, only because we have already seen that Rossi can be a productive NHLer. There's no guarantee that Zeev William is going to make the NHL. Zeev does not make the roster next season. Rossi does. And for a team that has historically lacked
Buffalo Zeevers
center depth, always has, Marco Rossi could be a top 6 center for this team. And worst case, you move him to the wing, but I think he can be a center for this team. Mateo going on to say Rossi plus, but not the 13. I get it. Even if you throw another pick, another prospect in there, to me, that's too much to move up to the spot there and get him. Even if that does still mean you get picks 11 and 13. I can't see it. I just, to me, that's too much. But man, I really, really think about it at the very least. I think I stick to my guns and hang on to Rossi, but we haven't brought this one up yet. This is a team that could trade back. Buffalo could be a team that trades back if there's a team that really wants to move up and get Zeev William. If he's sitting here as this is how our board falls.
It's an interesting take because I don't think we don't usually see a lot of trading back in the NHL, at least in the first round.
It's not nearly as common as NFL.
Yeah.
But NFL, there are so many more positions and
it's true
that you have to figure out.
Right.
So.
All right. And we were talking about number 12. The Philadelphia Flyers take Adam Jiricek, defenseman.
I like this one. And I think people are going to look at this and go, that's a bit early. Philly needs defense, man.
That's kind of why it made a lot of sense to me, because you're right. It is. Like we talked about that elite prospects draft guide. Like they have him ranked 28th. But like...
Right, and that's a rank of their players, not necessarily we think he's going to go 28 overall.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. So I get it. It's a little high, but you're right. Look, Philly needs defensemen. They got their forward. They got Matvei Michkov on the way. They need to start stacking up defensive prospects. And in this case, you get a competitive, hardworking, two-way defender, reads the game well. He's not shy about getting involved offensively either. Not huge offensive upside, but a little. The biggest concern, which is why maybe this is a little early, is that so he started the season with a knee injury, and so wasn't too much there. It kind of upended his season, but he is a solid two-way defender, and he's very physical, and that's a style that Philly clearly loves to play. I mean, come on, Torrance.
Yeah, Mateo nailing it here. Yeah, very early for a guy who hasn't played since December. He was playing okay, but not great at the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again,
that's the whole point. It's it's a Philly style pick. That's kind of why I went with him.
He has been ranked as high as number 10 on some of these boards. He has been ranked as low as number 28. So again, a lot of range for Jiricek. If healthy, again, and we've said this with a few guys, if healthy, there's a case for him to be a top 10 pick.
Right. And, actually there was when I was reading up on him, it was an anonymous Western Conference scout that said this, but I really liked it. And his quote was, "I don't know about the offensive sense and if he'll put up points in the NHL, but he can be a good number 4 or 5 or 6 defenseman in the NHL. And if you get that in the first round, or at least later-ish in the first round,
I get you want a top pairing defenseman at 12. I get you want a top 4 defenseman at number 12. Yep. If you are getting somebody who 5 years from now, 10 years from now is playing in your top 6, which Jiricek absolutely can be, you still hit on the pick.
By the way, I think this is just a troll, but his comp is David Jiricek.
Well, of course it is. Of course it is.
So I know it's a little early, especially when he hasn't played much. But ultimately, to me, this was it was a Philly pick. Full disclosure, it was a Philly pick for me after reading up on his physical style.
Yeah, and I think you look at the drop off of defensemen between Jiricek and Stian Solberg and the rest of the defensemen in the class.
Sounds like William McIsaac, who's projected to go in the 3rd or 4th round.
Yeah, McIsaac is way further down on the board and could potentially be somebody who's there for Boston.
Dan, before you say your pick.
So I'll rattle off a few names here of players who would potentially be on the board for Minnesota at 13. Consta Helenius, Liam Greentree, Michael Brandsegg-Nygård, Cole Iserman, Beckett Senecki, Igor Chernyshov. Most of the defensemen by this point off the board for Minnesota. And Mateo, exactly right here. Outside of the top 5, if you get a 200-foot game player, you did good. Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely right.
Totally.
So while I wait to see who Mateo thinks we're going to go with here, Joel, any more thoughts on Adam Jiricek here?
Nah, that's pretty much it. I think we can drum roll on your pick. You've been waiting.
I could see it. Stian Solberg has been rising rapidly up draft boards, and I want to say, give me just a second to check this one because I do have him going later in the draft here. On Elite Prospects draft board in March, he was ranked number 55. And they have had Stian Solberg as high as the top 15 since then.
Wow.
He is one of the most physical players in the draft, period.
Ooh, really
their analysis on him was one of the most violent players. They use the word violent to describe his game. And somebody who just wants to bully you out of the building, basically.
I like it.
that could very well be a Philly pick as well. If they don't want to go Jiricek.
That sounds more Philly style than Adam Jiricek.
it's a risky pick, but it's a good one.
Ooh, all right, here you go. So you stalled enough. Mateo gave his thoughts. Trevor Conley, Michael Hage, or
NBN, Michael Brandsegg.
Michael Brandsegg, yeah. And then he ultimately said he would go Hage.
Well, I got to tell you, Mateo, I did not go with Hage. I went
Chicago Steel boy.
Beckett Senecki, right wing from the Oshawa Generals. This is a player who, again, late rising draft stock, but legitimate first line potential. A dual threat winger, some of the best hands in the entire class. 68 points in 63 games in the regular season, 22 points in 16 games in the playoffs. He's 6'2", 181. To me, as I watched Beckett Seneke, I really felt like there was a lot of Matt Boldy type play to his game. I think he's someone who you could plug in and he, to me, screams top 6 for the Wild, top 6 winger. I understand the argument of wanting to take a center here. I understand there's a need for defensemen here. And if this is how the board falls, I don't think that Guerin would be opposed to trading back. We've seen what he and Judd Brackett can do when the Wild move down the board.
B-Rad's taking over Minnesota Wild. It's pretty good. I like that.
I would say I feel good, not great about this pick. But I think he's a player that Wild fans would really like. I also think Konsta Helenius would make a lot of sense here as well, given how Minnesota has an affinity for doing good things with Finnish centermen. Mikko Koivu, looking at you.
Yeah.
That comparison is there for Helenius. But Seneke, to me, as I look at the board, to me, he's best player available at that spot. So I went with best player available to Minnesota at 13. And I know that's a surprise as well. Yeah, I could hear that too, Mateo, saying that if the 5 defensemen not named Jakubchuk are gone, go forward. Yes, if Jakubchuk is there, I think Jakubchuk would be the pick. Leaning Hage, I understand that one. And again, there's not necessarily a wrong decision per se at this spot. It's just what skill sets are you?
We've said that ad nauseum. Apparently, there's not a wrong decision from 2 through like 20.
There's really not, because that is how deep the top half of this draft really is. And to segue here,
you're doing
Joel at number 14. You have a player who coming into this year was a top 3 pick.
Yep. There was a time, probably around, I remember maybe December.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first time I really kind of looked into it more, because I knew we were god awful and we were going to be picking really high. In Judd we trust.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I had this name on the Hawks board in like December, because I knew we were going to be having another top 5 pick or so.
Mm-hmm.
The San Jose Sharks go with another winger and take Cole Yzerman off the board.
The idea of potentially having Will Smith, Cole Yzerman, and Macklin Celebrini all on the ice at the same time and on your power play.
Demidov.
Oh, wait.
This is the Sharks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because they're taking Celebrini, dumbass.
Right. Oh, yeah, sorry. Right, my bad. I messed up. I messed up the order.
He's trying to troll so hard that he actually legitimately believes that they're going to meet up at 1. He's trying to troll that hard for Celebrini to Chicago at 2.
I tried to anti-jinx it, and like I said, it's like my flu game, so my brain went all over the place, and I mixed up the Blue Jackets and the San Jose Sharks. So yes, a Celebrini,
yes, potentially Celebrini, Yzerman, and Will Smith.
And to your point, it's so cool to like think about the idea, and this is why I ended up doing this too. Like you said, it was around December. Yzerman was a top 3 consensus. He kind of fell down quite a bit. I'll get into that, but it's funny that like in December it was kind of like, man, take your pick. Like, all right, someone's gonna get Macklin Celebrini, and then right after it's gonna be Cole Yzerman, and the Sharks go, hey, we're gonna do both.
Yeah.
Because why not? Now we can, because Cole Yzerman fell so far. One, I think that would be kind of awesome. That was just like a fun thing. I think that would be really fun, similar to like the Tija Ginla. That's just fun, but it's also realistic in this case. It's also very realistic. Why he fell a little bit. I mean, he was projected top 3 pick. And now, like we said, like he's hanging on to that top 10 spot barely. I mean, he does still have one of the best shots in this class.
Hands down the best.
Hands
shot
down.
in the class.
He's willing to kind of like dish out and take kind of physical punishment in front of the net and everything, right? Like he'll muscle opponents off loose pucks for rebound opportunities. I mean, whatever it takes for him to get on the score sheet. His points, it's kind of all like, so for the U.S. national under 18 team, the development program, 57 games played, 58 goals, 31 assists, good enough for 89 points. And then in the national team juniors in the USHL, 24 games, 25 goals, 9 assists for 34 points. And then in the World Junior under 18s, 7 games, 9 goals, 1 assist for 10 points. So like him falling this far is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
He really is the draft's top goal scorer, right? Like it would be insane to me if the Sharks could do this. In my opinion, this is if they can pull off Celebrini and then Cole Yzerman at 14. Like, did you potentially just do your version of Taves and Kane? Did you just do your version of maybe potentially even Crosby Malkin? Like, did you just do one of those? That's kind of where I see this happening, and that's why this is so cool to think about.
Yeah, the reason that Yzerman has fallen so far is because outside of his shot, there hasn't been a whole lot of growth that you would want to see from your draft year.
Yep.
For a guy who, as we said, was pretty much number 2 or number 3 behind Celebrini, who now we have at 14. There are some people who have him down around 18 to 20 even, because the skating is average to maybe even below average. Defense is not there at all. He'll fly the zone because he wants to go score.
Yep.
So that's a problem. But his shooting ability is unmatched in this draft class. We talked about how good overall offensively Ivan Demidov is. Yzerman as a pure shooter is a better pure shooter than Demidov. The skill is there just from just the shooting perspective. But when you talk about the player as a whole, his game has really not progressed the way that you want to see. So that's why he's down as far here.
He's looking like more of a project than originally anticipated.
Yes. But for a team like the Sharks, where they can afford to have him be a project for a couple years,
you have his time. Exactly.
Yeah. And you've made your early investments in Smith and from this mock Celebrini. You can afford to kind of take your time a little bit more with Yzerman and bring his game along. But you get somebody that Joel, I'm going to have you try and pronounce that city name, by the way.
What? Oh, so Mateo used to go watch Celebrini and Yzerman play in Faribault.
You're so close.
Faribault?
Faribault.
I said Faribault.
Yeah, but you said like Faribault.
Oh, just Faribault.
It's almost like it's Fair, Faribault.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
All right.
French.
Oh, that's pretty cool that you got to go see. Yeah. Oh, kids, you were 18. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, speaking of that, Mateo does bring up a good point. He's pretty much one of the youngest kids in the draft, if not the youngest in the draft.
Yeah.
And really quick, before we move on to your pick, because that's pretty much, that's Cole Yzerman. Mark's got a point here. Until the cap goes over 100 mil, combinations like that are going to be continued salary cap killers. My counterpoint to that, that's why ad patches are a good thing. Move on.
I don't think HP is watching tonight. We haven't heard from him yet. I think he might be on the road.
Not.
So
he's not.
You might have just lit the beacon to get him here.
Yes, exactly. There is a disturbance in the force while he's driving that rig. Keep the rig on the road.
He felt it.
Yeah, he felt it. He had to pull over.
Yeah, he's going to pull over and call in.
He drives to Illinois quite often, so he might be coming for my ass at this point.
At number 15, we've thrown his name out a bunch. Michael Brenzeg-Nygård to the Detroit Red Wings. This, to me, the last 3 years, because I've been doing mocks for about 5 years now and really putting a lot of thought and time into it. I had Nate Danielson going to Detroit last year. 2 years ago, I had Marco Casper going there. 3 years ago, I had Simon Edvinsson going there. To me, Brenzig Nygaard screams Stevie Y pick. Like it is such a high floor player that you know what you are getting with his game. And if the upside is there, and I absolutely believe it is, he is the type of guy that Yzerman takes that chance on, knowing that, hey, not only am I getting a player with a high floor, but I'm getting a player where the ceiling has top 10, if not top 5 upside. There is a lot to like about his game, and I think that's why Mateo was pushing for him at 13 to Minnesota as a potential option there too. I could absolutely see that. But for Brenzig Nygaard, played in the Hockey Allsvenskan this year, and was playing as a boy against men and was holding his own. Absolutely was. He had 18 points in 41 games, 8 goals in 9 games for Norway at international juniors. He's the type of player that you could play anywhere in your lineup. He could be first line, he could be fourth line. He's still going to find a way to be effective and make an impact. Very, very good support player. Really kind of can do it all. And when you talk about a player in the teens of the first round of draft, having that kind of lineup versatility that he can be a fit anywhere in your lineup, that's a win.
Oh, totally. When you're picking 15th overall and you're landing that kind of upside, that's a steal. That is, I know you said Oliver Moore was the steal of the first round last year. That's the steal of the first round this year in that case.
Yeah, and that's why I said he cannot be allowed to go to Chicago. Mateo, I've been watching a lot of players in this draft, top 5 shot, maybe top 3. Yeah, the offensive upside to his game is there. I'm going to go into the corner, go win the puck battle, and get it out and get up the ice.
How many years away do you think he is?
How
many years away do you think he is?
2.
Okay.
I think probably 1 more year. Well, okay. So he'll have 1 more year over in Europe. He'll come to North America and play in the AHL for a year, and then 3 seasons out. But that's just so that he has time to adjust to the North American game.
That's fair. Okay.
It is a different game than how they play in Europe.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And I love MBN too. Like he's such a good player. I would not be mad at all if Minnesota took him over Seneke. I just thought Seneke might be better player available, but
yeah,
I love MBN's game a lot. And Spoke Z loves him too, which is for me the ultimate stamp of approval. Spoke Z says, get this guy to Minnesota. I'm good with that.
That's fair.
He has forgotten more about prospects than I've learned in my entire life. Like he's unreal. He's a savant.
I'll take it. So 16. I'll take it that we get him at 18. No.
Do you want to get striked?
That's the second time I'm getting striked. At 16, just a troll. I ended up picking the St. Louis Blues, right? For the St. Louis Blues, Liam Greentree of the absolutely horrid second to last in the OHL Windsor Spitfires. I mean, he's been said to be, he's a human highlight reel. He's capable of making huge plays look easy, small plays look skillful. He's defensively astute, a huge producer. He's got a comp of Matt Boldy, so you'll love that.
Astute?
Astute, yeah.
That's the most SAT word I've heard you say on this show. I love it.
Yeah. That was kind of the theme. Like he's just a very smart player, very big hockey IQ.
It's absolutely right. It's spot on analysis. But
he lost my place. Where am I? Oh, there we go. Yeah. So I figured you'd like the comp of Matt Boldy. He, like I said, he was stuck on an absolutely horrible Windsor Spitfires team, and yet he still put up 90 points in 64 games, 36 goals, 54 assists. And at the under 18 World Juniors, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. Not bad. And not to mention, he was 24 clear of his next highest scoring teammate with those 90 points on Windsor, right? So
yeah.
The other thing that stood out to me is obviously you need to know your most hated opponent, right? I know the Blues style. He's compared to being a power forward, but he's more of like a power playmaker. And to me, that is right up the Blues alley for style in playmakers. They are huge with those kind of power playmakers. That's been their game forever. It's a lot of the reason they won their Stanley Cup in 19. That's been their style, and I don't see that changing.
I think to me, it's like if David Backes was a winger.
Literally.
Like to me, that's what Greentree would be in St. Louis.
Exactly. That's an even better comp. Well, I wanted to give the Matt Boldy comp because like there's Matt Boldy clearly has more skill, at least offensively, than David Backes did. So that's
Yeah, that's fair.
And so that's why it's
maybe even Pavel Buchnevich a little bit too, to a degree.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that was one of the first players I thought of too, of why it fits the style to me. And that's just a total Blues pick to me.
Number 17, we'll keep it moving here. Yeah, Washington Capitals, Konsta Helenius. The slide falls. I could see Helenius, I think right around pick 10 is probably the highest that I think is appropriate for him. But again, a lot to like about Helenius's game. Held his own playing internationally and playing in a men's professional league as a junior player. One of the smartest players in the draft, just from a hockey IQ standpoint. Like, he gets it and understands the reads, makes the plays. He's not caught out of position. I used the Mikko Koivu comparison earlier. He's a player who there's not a lot of like flashy element to his game, but he's a player who is always in the right place at the right time, makes heads up plays. He's a smart player. The skill is there. He's going to be effective all over the ice. 36 points in 51 regular season games was the 5th best mark among draft eligible skaters in Liga history. So the upside that we've seen from recent Finnish skaters, we've seen some really good ones come through in the draft. That Helenius is at that high of a level from a scoring standpoint above those guys, and is also smart in transition, smart in the neutral zone, smart in the defensive zone. I love it.
Washalennington Capitals. I don't know why. Just Washalennington is a funny word to me. I haven't taken any medication either, so that's a genuine laugh.
That might be a little bit of a stretch. But
come on, give B-Rad the pun there.
It's a tough one, but I'll give it to him.
Mateo's got a good point. Yeah, there's no game-breaking traits, but he's definitely above average.
Yeah.
And everything.
So again, at 16, 17, 18 on the draft board here, when you're getting a player who, like, that's the fit, is that there are no real knocks on his game. The only knock is that nothing is elite, but it's all above average. You take that 10 times out of 10. This is the range where the Minnesota Wild selected Joel Eriksson Ek. Was right around this range. So if you can get somebody who can play that type of a role at 17, and for a Capitals team who they're going to need some centers over the next couple of years, that because we all know Pierre-Luc Dubois is not going to be.
What do you mean? Pierre-Luc Dubois is going to be on a new team in a year anyway.
Who's going to take him at this point with that contract?
Edmonton.
Are they trying to hit cap floor after McDavid and Draisaitl leave? Like, is that where you're going with that?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how they're going to get there.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of needing some more center depth, Chicago's second pick in this first round. Mateo's going to love it. Mateo's going to love it. Yep, Jinx. Mateo, you're going to love it. Michael Hage of the Chicago Steel. That's I'm not going to lie. That was actually one of the first things I thought of. I'm like, hold on. This seems fun. I'm going to do this. Then I started reading more up on him, and I'm like, no, never mind. I like this even more now. To me, well, really quick, just a little bit about him first. So the USHL, 54 games played, 33 goals, 42 assists, 75 points. Dynamic puck carrier in transition with a quick release. He made a lot of improvements in defense, physical skills, and playmaking, which propelled him up into the top 20 on the draft board here. And he's been considered, arguably the USHL's most dynamic center. From December on this past season in the USHL, he scored 61 points in 38 games, punctuated by 31 and 16 to close the season. That's insane. I wrote that stat down for a reason. That's nuts. That's sick to me. His play style has been kind of loosely compared to like a Matt Barzal and a Jack Eichel. And here's why I have him going to Chicago, not just because that all sounds amazing, but here's the deal. We need more centers. Yes, we drafted quite a few centers. Obviously, Connor Bedard being the biggest one so far. Oliver Moore being another one. However, we've talked about it ad nauseum, and we even saw it a little bit with Bedard, at least this season. There's a chance that neither of them stay at center. God damn it, I'm changing jerseys. Mateo, just become a Hawks fan. Just do it. Just do it.
Mateo, you're killing me.
We're sponsored by Circa Sports now. It's all good.
Better than Fanatics.
Way better than Fanatics. Well, the whole league's sponsored by that. That's unconfirmed.
Yeah, but not Fanatics Sportsbook.
Right. Which is hilarious. They have one of those. Anyway. I'm not going to spend too much time. I explained everything. Hage is, and look, Mateo's in love with him, right? He's a 6'1" center. And look, the thing is, we need bigger centers. 6'1", one of the bigger centers we would have in our prospect pool. I also think there is that chance. I think Bedard stays at center. His faceoffs will improve. He's only 18, about to be 19. I think he can stay, but maybe there's a chance that they move Oliver Moore to wing when he comes up, right? Like, our center depth in the prospect pool is there.
Yeah, he or Nazar could go wing too, by the way.
Right, exactly. I actually do see Nazar. That's actually a good point. I think it's a toss-up between them. If you the 10-second thing I gave you, if you're going to tell me one of them is staying at center, I think I might say Moore stays at center over Nazar.
Yeah. But you want, theoretically, all three of those guys in your top six, plus potentially having Michael Hage in your top six here too, potentially.
That's kind of the point here. And that's why I think, Chicago Steel, pretty cool Chicago boy indirectly there, right? Like, but then again, center, a little bit of a bigger center too. Playmaking ability is there, shots there. He's the all-around player. I am not going to ever compare, but the last time we saw any, at least descriptions of that, he wasn't a center, but it was Marian Hossa. That's what I was reading through all of that. He sounds like the complete package, and you're getting him at 18 if he falls that far. Hell yeah. Bring that to me all day. I know the Steel is a really great developmental program. I love it. Tier 1 hockey in the U.S. is seriously picking up. Chicago Blackhawks. There you go, B-Rad. That's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. I do agree as well. I need to pay more attention to the Steel. Joel, I'll send you a video I put together on him. If this is reality, you will love this pick. Yes, please, because he sent me a picture, or he sent me a video. Mateo just did. He DM'd me a video of Anton Saleyev at 17 years old, literally obliterating a man. So
yeah. But like, one of the comps I saw for Hage too was Robert Thomas.
Yes. Yep. Which
oh boy.
Yeah. I'll take that all day. That was like the main comp, and then when you read down a little further, that's where they kind of loosely said like his play style is of a Barzal or a Jack Eichel, and that was like my final sign off of just sign me up.
Yeah, he's going to be good. He could easily go before 18 if he ends up to Chicago at 18.
That's a good point. I actually did forget to bring up. Thank you, Mateo. Yeah, he's not going to go in the top 10 because he did start the year recovering from a shoulder injury. That's also why I gave you the stat. That was why the stat. That's why I
Mm.
forgot to mention that stat of from December, the 61.
Right, because he had that slower start, but when he turned it on,
He turned it
if
on.
if that's the player you're getting the rest of the way, that's top 10 upside.
Exactly.
The Vegas Golden Knights. Which future player will they trade away? Igor Chernyshov, because they don't develop their prospects. They trade them away as soon as Markstrom goes on long-term injured reserve. That's what they do.
Connor
So, Igor
McDavid to the Golden
Chernyshov,
Knights confirmed.
future Edmonton Oiler, Igor Chernyshov will be taken by the Vegas Golden Knights.
I just thought of that prospect of Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel playing together.
Amazing. Who was it today that sent something about if Jack Eichel had been drafted first overall, McDavid would have a cut by now because Buffalo would have traded him to Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for Chernyshov, again, a very well-rounded game. He's not elite in any particular area, but not a lot of flaws to his game. He had 1.27 points per game average, which was the 7th best mark in NHL history among draft eligible skaters with more than 20 games played. So offensive upside is there. Well-rounded game. Seems like he's probably going to be middle six type forward, which when you're picking at 19, middle six works. You take that. And again, not a player that's going to be making the Golden Knights roster anytime soon because he'll still be playing in Russia for a couple more years. But picking at 19, you're okay to wait a couple more years, and the Vegas is going to be good anyway. They don't have room for him right now.
They're coming. They're a year off of. They're a year off of a Stanley Cup. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. So you're fine. Take your time and wait. Let your prospects develop. Chernyshov will be good. Just give it time, and then he'll get traded to somebody because Vegas doesn't hold their first round picks. Like seriously, they came into the league in 2017, and I think one of their first round picks is still with the organization.
Yeah, they just traded away their pick that we mocked them at. It was one of the few we were right about last year. I forgot his name, but I remember one of us were right about it. Or yeah,
they went with David Edstrom. We had them with Gavin Brindley, but they did just say Edstrom, right?
Damn it, that's what it was. My bad. I thought I was right on that one, which is why it was funny to see him get traded. But
number 20, you're back on the board. Chicago traded up, which means the Islanders traded down.
Yep.
So this is the Islanders from Tampa Bay via Chicago. Joel, Islanders are on the clock. Who do you take?
Ryder Ritchie from Prince Albert, the Prince Albert Raiders.
The Raiders. I like this pick.
Yeah, I mean he's one of the smoothest, flashiest players in this entire draft. Got a nice give and go style, and he's kind of improved his physical game over time too. He did fail to take a bit of a step this season, similar to a couple people we've talked about. So falling to 20 makes a lot of sense here. His name's been talked about quite a bit, though. He was the 2022-23 WHL Rookie of the Year. So there's something to be said there, and I think that's kind of where the whole lack of a step came. There wasn't too much from the 22 season to this past season, but this past season, 47 games played, 19 goals, 25 assists, 44 points. So I guess for a Rookie of the Year, being under a point per game, I can understand. Yeah, I mean, I just, it kind of makes sense to me. Richie never really took, steps necessary to keep pace with the other top end prospects. That's why he's fallen down the board, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
if
he
you
definitely
think the skill is there, like the Islanders need skilled prospects.
Exactly.
Their pool is so barren right now.
They're so offensively challenged, and this sounds like a guy that if he's going to fall, which it does sound like a nice fall if this is the case, somebody you probably want to grab and keep in your pool, and maybe it's worth the project, in my opinion. And it, like, again, Rookie of the Year last season in the WHL, like it makes sense to me.
21. The Los Angeles Kings take Sasha Boisvert out of Muskegon.
Oui.
a forward who is committed to the University of North Dakota. So, Mom, if you're watching, here's one of your boys. We have 2 UND recruits going in the first round here. He's one of them. For Boisvert, below average skater, but that's really the only knock on his game. And that's something that, to me, like, that can be coached. And with any prospect that we've mentioned, and even those that we haven't, if you are able to be coached, you can work out so many things out of your game. Mm-hmm. But you have to be willing to be coached. And for some prospects, it doesn't happen. And they have all the talent in the world, but they don't focus on coaching. Boisvert's going to listen to his coaches. I'm not worried about that. I still think he's going to develop very nicely. He's a very physical, projects to me as a middle 6 power forward type. Decent passer, might make power play 2 for you. He's going to knock guys around. He's a hitter, and thunderous hits, not just I'm going to knock you off the puck, but like, I'm going to go through you to get the puck. That's the element to his game that he brings, I think, for a Kings squad who, they have some talented centers in their system. But again, for somebody who's going to be a bottom 6 to middle 6 type role and power forward, getting him at 21, that's to me a good pick and somebody that can make that impact in their lineup. Again, probably 3, I think maybe 3 college seasons, and then he's ready to go pro after that. Maybe 2, but probably 3. It makes sense to me. And then up from there.
All right. And at number 22, controversial, but we're going back to the USHL. The Nashville Predators take Trevor Connolly of the Tri-City.
Mateo threw his name out as somebody for potentially Minnesota at 13. 22, I think, to me, he doesn't go too much later than this.
Yes, and you're exactly right. He's described as a human highlight reel with elite hands and edges. He's capable of being a sniper, a net front finisher, or a playmaker. He's got some physical skills. Now, with all that said, along with he's considered one of the most talented players in this draft when all is said and done, and everyone in the industry really does know it. He's comped to Jordan Kyrou with the Tri-City Storm last season. In 52 games, he put up 31 goals and 47 assists, good enough for 78 points, right at 1.5 per game player. Now, Joel, why does he fall to 22nd to the Predators on your draft? Well, I'm not going to go deep into it, but he's got a bit of some troubled off-ice stuff in his past. I'm just saying it in general. I'm not going to go too far into it. It's pretty rough. It was around, I think, when he was like 16. Some stuff with Snapchat, some not so nice language being used at some point too, which I read up deeper. You can read deeper on the actual details. It's, he's gone on record denying some of it and then also apologizing for the Snapchat thing I'm talking about, and he felt remorse for it, all that stuff. So that's why he fell this far when you get the description that I described to you on how talented he really is. And Mateo said it too. He's a very talented kid. So it kind of comes down to like, there really is no telling where he goes in the draft because of, some of the, despite apologies or not, the negative PR that can come with it potentially. But outside, talking on ice specifically, he is one of the most dynamic, creative, and talented players in the draft. There's not really a reason he can't be a top 6 scoring winger with some power play upside at the highest level here. If he just becomes a little more efficient, he has all the tools. It's just a bit of a, there's some reach there.
Yeah, I think with Trevor Connolly, the Barry Trotz about this time last year said, I can go out and find you 100 guys who can play 3rd and 4th line roles. Get me some guys who have legitimate top 6 upside. Connolly has that legitimate top 6 upside. And if you are able to get his head on straight and the off ice stuff.
And not to
keep
interrupt
him
you.
Focused. Yeah, go ahead.
Not to interrupt really quick, the Barry Trotz thing, that's a very good point. That's also why I actually was okay with putting him there, because if there's any organization or someone running or an organization who can screw someone's head on straight, if it needs to be screwed on straight, it would be run by Barry Trotz.
Yeah. He's in a front office role now. He was a coach for how long?
Right.
And all he did was go places and develop good hockey players.
Exactly.
So if Trotz sees that to his game and says, I want that guy, makes a ton of sense to me.
Yep.
The talent is there. The organizational fit and upside is there. I think this is probably about as late as we would see him go. I'd be a little surprised if he went maybe 24 as an absolute hard floor. But to Nashville at 22, I think if they're getting Connolly, they're walking away from their draft pretty happy.
Yep.
23, Stan Solberg to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
A future in exiting the first round.
The comment on the Leafs the last couple of years has really been get defense and get guys who have some attitude and edge and can play physical playoff hockey. If you want physical playoff hockey, you want Stan Solberg. Mateo had mentioned as high as 13 to Minnesota. I think that might be a little bit rich for him, but for Toronto to get him at 23 here, I think they'd be dancing in the streets if they got Stan Solberg at 23. I mentioned it earlier in the show, the most violent checker in the draft. If Minnesota decides to trade down from 13, he's absolutely somebody I could see Bill Guerin targeting. Wouldn't hate seeing him in Minnesota, just feel like 13 is a little early.
Yep.
At 23 to Toronto, I would think they sprint to the board to take him.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
Let's keep rolling. We're at an hour 50.
I think, well, at this point, we'll speed through it. We will get through everything pretty quick here, but thank you.
Mark's been patient, though. We're going to go in on 25 a little bit here.
Yes, Mark has been patient.
We gotta give Mark some
I'll plow through.
There.
I'll plow through number 24, the deep team of the Colorado Avalanche, and I have them taking center Jet Lutchenko from the Guelph Storm. Yeah, I mean, described as speed, effort, and physicality to become. He really could become a fan favorite bottom six forward. And at 24 to the Colorado Avalanche, okay. So you mean to tell me that you're one of the best depth scoring teams in the league gets better depth scoring? Oh no.
Yeah, you're talking about a center for a team that has Nathan MacKinnon.
Exactly.
That number one center role is locked up for the next 10 years. Lutchenko's not getting there. But
no, exactly.
Bottom six to middle six, sure, hold it down.
Yeah, fine. For Guelph last year, 68 games played, 20 goals, 54 assists, 74 points, just over a point per game player. You know, World Juniors, 7 points in 7 games played as well. Like, it's pretty good, man. He is one of the youngest players in the draft. He's obviously got more room to develop as a result of that, but that's expected, especially at 24 overall. Like, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And this really was only his first season in a big role in the OHL too. So, he really should only improve, and you go to an amazing program like the Avalanche and you can learn under someone like Nathan MacKinnon. Yeah, I think you're set.
Joe Sakic doesn't miss.
Yep. No, he does not. You do not speak. Do not speak, Mr. Sakic.
Number 25, Mark. We made you wait long enough. Boston, from Boston via Ottawa, gets the 25th overall pick in the draft. And this player, we originally did have them mocked as being Ottawa's pick and somebody who makes sense for Ottawa to pick. But as soon as that trade was announced, I went, holy crap, this is an even better fit for Boston than it would be for Ottawa.
Yep.
And that is Cole Beaudin of the Barrie Colts. I think he, to me, screams Boston Bruin. The fans are going to absolutely love this guy. He is a strong, high motor player, ton of effort, ton of intensity to his game. 62 points in 67 games for Barrie this year. He played for Canada on the U18 World Juniors team. To me, he projects as a bottom six checking forward type of role, but there is some middle six upside. I do think he probably can play penalty kill at the next level if he gets his skating figured out. And again, for a lot of these guys, you can say every single player in this draft needs to work on their skating. It's a lazy take, but like it's for him, it's more like the mechanic is weird. Like there's some issues with his actual stride. It's not about getting faster. It's not about developing more power, more burst from those first three steps. It's like, no, the form isn't as refined as it could be. And if he does that, he's going to be just fine. But to me, he is a Bruins shut it down, physical, gritty, grinder type of player that can easily become a fan favorite in Boston. It's a really sensible pick. Yeah, I think it makes too much sense for them to not take. I hope that's a good snap.
The Bo Stan Bruins. Cole Baudouin is what the wild thing Charlie Stramel can be.
Yeah. Oh man, can you imagine? Like if that Mateo nail on the head. Absolutely got that one right.
There you go. Please look for Black and Gold Productions writer Tom Kaluti's article about who he thinks could be available at 25. I want to see that.
Yeah, Mark, if you send that to me on LinkedIn or whatever, send that over. I'll take a look at it after the show and see what we got. But if he's saying Baudouin as well, I think Bruins fans would be very, very happy with Cole Baudouin.
All right. With the 26th pick, the Montreal Canadiens from Winnipeg are going.
Their second pick of the first round, by the way.
Their second pick of the first round, exactly. And who did we have them taking earlier in the first round again?
Oh, we had them taking Caden Lindstrom.
Caden Lindstrom, right, center. So they go their forward there, and in this case now they're getting a defenseman in Leo Salin Wallenius.
That's I think the hardest name that you had to pronounce tonight.
Was I close? Leo
Celine Wallenius.
Celine Wallenius, right?
Yeah. Okay. So like Rasmus Dahlin.
Yeah, I messed up.
They're both Swedish.
Part. Whoops, messed that part up. But
all right, you were close.
I was close. And quite frankly, I know more about him, but I do not know a lot about his name. But look, they get their center earlier. Now they get their defenseman, a sound puck distributor, and an in-zone defender with all the NHL caliber tools. He's reliable. He's consistent. Quite frankly, something they haven't really seen in any defenseman on their roster since they had Shea Weber. So, I mean,
newly inducted Hall of Fame. Well, not inducted yet, but going to be inducted.
Exactly.
Can we take 2 seconds on that one?
Oh, the Hall of Fame?
I'm a little surprised he got in on the first ballot. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but looking at some of the other players who were eligible this year, I'm a little surprised that he was one of the ones who got in.
Yeah, he might not have won anything other than individual awards, but
and even there, he never was higher than second in the Norris Trophy voting, which again, several top 3 Norris votes. That's freaking really good. You take that.
Forever, it was literally between him.
It was him, Doughty, Keith,
and Ryan Suter, and Keith.
Yeah.
So I mean,
like pretty consistently, those were your top 4 guys. Oh, and Erik Karlsson in there too.
Yeah,
because Karlsson put up so many points.
Our boy going in as well, who barely won anything like that either. Jeremy Roenick.
Yeah, I think that one's a little overdue.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. But yeah, so back to Wallenius. I mean, look, they haven't had just a very reliable D-man in a while. They need to bolster up that D-core. They got their center earlier.
Yeah, they got David Reinbacher at 5 last year. This is
exactly
potential.
Now you got your 1-2, potential 1 and 2, exactly. He's got the tools to stay involved in the play, even shot capable of finishing them occasionally too. His only knocks really that makes him fall a little bit. He's kind of described as vanilla, at least from the offensive blue line. He doesn't use or really manage space particularly well right now. He's not really deceptive or manipulative or anything. So like, I can understand him being considered vanilla. However, his comp, I really like this. Maybe not when he was a Blackhawk. He was pretty solid as a Blackhawk too, but his comp is Calvin DeHaan. I mean, Calvin DeHaan. I loved Calvin DeHaan, and like reading the description of Wallenius, I really get why his comp is Calvin DeHaan, because he just sounds like all around. You work out the kinks, and he just sounds like an all around, like you can rely on this guy to be a pretty good shutdown defenseman. You don't have to worry about him making a lot of mistakes as soon as he develops into that, and that screams Calvin DeHaan. He's not a huge offensive producer or anything like that. Calvin DeHaan was pretty vanilla. There was nothing flashy. There was nothing crazy, but he got the job done.
He'll go block 3 shots a game. He'll clear the puck up the ice and get it to the guys who can score.
Yep, and that's all you really can ask for. And if you're getting that all the way down at 26 when you already grabbed your center way the hell up at number, what was it, 5? Yeah, I think that's a solid steal at that point.
I'm going to need Mateo to expand on this one. Is he actually your cousin?
Are you cousins with Calvin DeHaan? Because I really want to know. That's pretty badass.
I was kind of a kickstand for KD if he was on the Bees defense. Yeah, DeHaan as a Bruin would be disgusting.
Oh, DeHaan as a Bruin would have been like a plus 50 on the season.
Easily.
Yeah.
He would have been a plus 50, and Charlie McAvoy would never have had to block a shot.
I actually want to look up, like, even on these bad, when he was on the Hawks, even when the Hawks got bad and he was here, he was still, his first season with us, he was a plus 10. Okay, then it kind of tapers off, minus 16, minus 21.
Yeah, that was also the team direction was heading down, not necessarily just
not
coming off the cups.
Exactly, so that's fine. All right, Dan, who's number 27 to the Hurricanes?
He said no, but when you share that last name, it's a rarity. Okay, well, maybe distant cousins.
Perhaps.
You go back far enough, we're all cousins.
Moving on.
Anyway. 27, Carolina Hurricanes. I had them going with Emil Hemming, somebody who, again, a few years off from the NHL, probably talking closer to 4 to 5 years off, moving into that type of timeline here. But a high-end shooting power forward. He's a formidable one-timer threat, especially on the power play. Smart defensively and a bottom and middle 6 type of player who, as you get later into the first round,
man, you can't be yawning. We're almost done, Dan. We're almost done.
I know, but we cleared the 2-hour mark like we said we would, so we're moving that way. But yeah, somebody who a few years out for Carolina, Carolina can take their time affording to wait for him. Because again, if he came over 2 years from now, he doesn't have an organizational fit in their lineup, just with who they have in their system already. He just doesn't. But you give it a couple more years.
Carolina.
Hemming to me I think he does have that middle 6 is ultimately going to be his spot. Maybe he's a second line winger. Power play upside is there as well. You can have him operate off the wall. You can park him in front of the net. Do pretty much whatever you need to do. He's 6'1", 205. So, if that's where he's at in his draft year, good luck by the time he gets here, knocking him off the puck at that kind of build and frame.
Yep, totally. Oh, by the way, we missed a really good pun again by B-Rad. Sorry about that. Back to
what did we miss?
My Montreal pick, the Montreal Selenians.
Oh, there you go.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
It's got another one here, Carolina Hurricanes.
I put that up while you were talking.
No, I was too many screens I'm switching between.
All right.
I need a dual monitor setup. Seth Topol, Locked On Wild, put me onto that. He got his dual monitor set up a couple of weeks ago, and you, of course, you do that too. You have
I used to.
that
I
you
don't
do
do it anymore.
sometimes.
I don't do it anymore. Now I have a
Okay.
giant 34-inch gaming monitor, so I'm good.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
But yeah, I need to invest in a dual monitor setup here and
I haven't been
be able to
using
do that.
the little split. There we go. Now I'm going to do that. This is much smarter. All right. Now at 28, the Calgary Flames at 9 got Jerome McGinley's son. So now they got to go defenseman in Aaron Kiviharju. He was the captain for Finland at the under-18 World Juniors. I mean, that's already saying something. And you're getting him at 28. That's pretty solid. He's described as a breakout wizard who controls the game from the back end. A breakout wizard at 28.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. That's pretty cool. Like that's the biggest thing I've read up on him. His transition game is top notch. Now the only knock on him here is there really isn't too much tape on him because 7 games into the season, he suffered a pretty significant knee injury at practice. It ended up keeping him from playing for over 6 months. So that's tough. And that also really is my biggest reason for like you taking him this far down. When you say someone's a wizard, why the hell are you picking him at 28? Well, that's why. He was out for 6 months. He's got to catch back up again. I'm not saying he won't, and quite frankly, the Calgary Flames. There we go. There we go. There we go. That's pretty good.
Kivy, how are you doing?
Oh, that's pretty good. The other player that suffered from an injury, right? And again, he is a legal midget. He is true. Yep. He is 5'10". That's pretty small for a defenseman. But yeah, I mean, his offensive game hasn't really evolved over the past 2 years. He usually resorts to simple plays, defers to others instead of, trying to create anything on his own. But he's got good passing ability, not too much confidence in the offensive production in the NHL, but that's okay because the Calgary Flames got Tisha Ginla. So the whole point is you're picking defenseman and forward when you're picking twice in the first round. Like that's kind of an ideal swing there.
Yeah, and to your and Mateo's point, like he's top 15 pick if he doesn't get hurt.
Right, he's out for
6 months. So you're getting top 15
but...
talent at 28.
Right, exactly.
So you're doing just fine here. If Calgary walks out of the first round with Kiviharju and Tisha Ginla, how can you not be happy with that?
Yeah, and they kind of need a win because especially after Florida winning the Cup, I think it's pretty safe to say that Florida destroyed that trade.
What would have been worse, though, for them to see Florida win and Matthew Tkachuk gets his cup, or to see your biggest rival Edmonton win the cup for the first time in how long and be the first Canadian team to win the cup since '93?
I think they're just choosing to pour battery acid directly into their eyes.
You have literally never seen a Canadian team win the Stanley Cup, and we were 2 goals away from that happening.
Yep.
I was a child. I was 14 months old, I believe.
Which means I still was not born yet.
Yeah. So it has not happened in your lifetime. 29, Dallas Stars. They, again, as good as Dallas was this year, there's not a lot of holes in their prospect pool. For me, they're taking on upside here. It's a best player available because there's not even necessarily a spot where you're like, yes, Dallas must address this in the draft. When you're getting this late into the first round, that's where these teams are. So for Dallas, getting EJ Emery, who, Mom, if you're still watching, he's your second North Dakota commit in our first round of the mock here. So the other name for you to know, EJ Emery, he is a defensive defenseman. There is very little offensive upside to this game. If he's on your power play, it's because your other defensemen are hurt. But he will absolutely be PK1 for somebody. He has physicality to his game, but he doesn't rely on that. Instead, it's I'm going to beat you with being in the right position. It's I'm not going to reach, but I'm going to be stride for stride with you to take the puck away there. That's his game. I've seen him mocked as high as St. Louis at 16 overall.
I've seen that as well.
So he really, and this could be that we're undervaluing him here too at 29. could very, very easily go before that. But if you're talking about a potential top 4 defenseman who is 6'3", 185 this late in the first round, it's a win for Dallas. He to me is best player available here. And for Dallas, who already has a deep prospect pool, rich get richer.
Totally. All right.
3 more to go.
3 more. Number 30. The New York Rangers select Henry Muse, defenseman from the Ottawa 67s, who also slightly legal midget. He's only 6 foot.
Slightly legal midget.
Barely
Give
legal
some slightly
midget.
legal midgets is a bad name. Oh, that rocks.
Oh, that's great. Not too much here. He's smooth, kind of, skillful defenseman, crafty activation. He's got a lot of poise under heavy fire. Good on the rush defense skills. But his game lacks a lot of pace. Puck stays on his stick too long. Lanes close in front of him way too often. He does commit a lot of turnovers. Puts himself in positions where, he either has to force a play or kind of lose the puck, and he kind of lacks stopping power a little bit. But look, the defensemen are already the Rangers are already pretty stacked at defensemen. So this is okay if if he's clearly got some upside. He's clearly got some upside. He can put up points in, 65 games in the OHL. He put up 61 points. Pretty good for a defenseman, and you're getting that at 30. I mean, the Rangers have time there. He's not going to be up for a while, I would assume. And if really anything happens, you could use him as trade bait at that point. But I think the Rangers, pretty good fit here. Emery's a boring but reasonable pick.
Responsible is the name of the game that late in the first round.
Yeah, pretty much exactly. Like you kind of said it yourself. New York Rangers, it's pretty good. And actually, I'm gonna end it on the pun, because you're gonna want to transition to 31 when I give you this. His comp, Cam York, to New York.
Sam and I used to call him Yam Cork.
Oh Jesus!
Flip the letter.
Yam Cork.
And then when he scored a goal, I would text her and go, "Yam uncorked." It's a dumb bit, but it's a good bit.
Go to 31. Go to 31.
Last thought on Henry Muse before we do switch, though. He's a guy who I've seen some scouts say second round for Henry Muse, and there's a couple other defensemen who have been put ahead of him. If he falls out of the first round, he's going to be one of the first 10 picks off the board on day 2.
Ooh, hold on. Before you move to 31,
Go ahead.
Joel and the midgets. I have picked a lot of defensemen with my picks. That actually is a very deep joke right there.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Mark, come on, man. Stop it. Seriously, don't understand how you both and this hockey talk doesn't get more exposure. Always good and smart. Thank you, Mark. It'll make me cry. Mark. It's not the Tylenol either. I'm going to actually cry. We love you, Mark.
Joel, we've each got one more pick to go. I am making my second Anaheim Ducks pick of the first round. I'm a little bummed that Tim didn't get to stick around to this one, but I'm going to pick his brain on it before we get to Friday.
Oh,
Tarek Parizak.
B-Rad's going to have some fun with that name.
From Prince George.
Prince George?
I think with having already taken the defenseman here, it makes sense that they would want to go forward. Parizak is an excellent finisher, good shot, puts the puck in the net, 43 goals in 68 games. You get a 105-point guy in the WHL this late in the first round. You go, okay, why is he going this late? Once again, it's skating is a concern. Really has to get better to make the NHL. And there are concerns about whether he is dynamic enough to be somebody who drives plays, or is he going to be a passenger who waits for the play to come to him? Because he doesn't have a lot of physicality to his game, but he does put the puck in the net. And you always want guys who that's their main thing.
Yep.
So if Parizak can figure that out, which again, to me, that comes down to coaching. Those are things that can be coached and brought along. There are some things, some intangibles to the game that you just cannot coach. To me, that's coaching, and that's something that they need to be able to draft and develop those players. And Parizak is an example of the talent is there. Can you coach that talent up to make him a serviceable, productive NHLer?
Yep.
And I think Anaheim has the ability to do that here. So take a shot on a guy who has the talent, has the upside, but needs the coaching.
Absolutely. Dan.
Final pick, Joel.
We've reached it. The 32nd pick. Philadelphia's second pick of the first round.
Mm-hmm.
I had them take their defenseman in Jiricek all the way up at whatever it was, like 12 or 12, yeah. And with the final pick of the first round, they are going to take, and I'm willing to take the heat on this pick because I think this is probably a little too low for this player, especially everything I've read up on him. But I'll give my reasons why. Andrew Basha from the Medicine Hat Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's Basha, right? Yeah.
Yep. Andy Basha.
All right, doing pretty good there. 6 foot, 187. In 63 games played for Medicine Hat, he had 30 goals and 55 assists. An 85-point scorer in the final pick of the first round. You got your defenseman, now you got your winger. He's a fast-moving, dynamic winger with a lot of playmaking and scoring ability. And cool thing is, if that ends up kind of failing him, his checking game is pretty significant too. So bottom six energy forward there a little bit. Again, that's a nice little Philly style of play there. That's a good Torts guy right there.
Mateo's with you here. Yup, too low. Again, Philly might have gone a little early on their first player, and then getting a little late on this player comes out of the wash.
No, I totally agree with Mateo. He's after we had finalized these and I read a little more on him, I was like, oh yeah, no, I put him too low. Definitely put him too low because even on Elite Prospects big draft guide, he was their number 18th player. Again, not saying he's going to go 18th, but he was their number 18th prospect. So definitely a little low.
If Calgary decides to double dip on forwards, him at 28, I think makes a lot of sense too.
Is that still too low though?
Maybe Boston at 25.
It says his playmaking and off puck feel and his rush game really especially should translate well to the NHL. Here's where I could see him falling, maybe not to 32, but falling. He relies a lot on his pace to beat opponents. He outspeeds and outmaneuvers more than he outplans his opposition, right? So he's kind of got a tendency to overdangle, which that's one of those things where wingers, that happens when you're a skillful young rookie winger. You're gonna have a tendency to kind of do a little too much.
There comes a point where you can't outdangle everybody anymore. And have you relied so much on being able to just dangle your way out of it that you don't actually know what to do when you meet that opposition? If he's a player who understands that and figures out hey, I'm not just going to be able to, left, right, left and get out of this.
Yep.
If he can add that to his game, 32 is probably too low for him. Like you said, like Mateo
absolutely said. Exactly like Mateo said. So the other thing too,
I like this comp from Mark here.
Oh,
just like Bruins prospect Fabian Lysell. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because Lysell has all the talent in the world as far as handling puck and can he get out of a jam when he needs to, but putting it together to be able to do that against players at your skill level. And I think he can, and I think he will.
Yeah, there was a lot of chatter too in some of the notes and everything I've read on him on, there's a good chance his offensive game can hit a wall up at the NHL level, but
but what prospect hasn't hit a wall at the NHL level?
Right, and it all comes down to
how do you get over it? How do you get under it? How do you get through it? You got
this late in the first round, you said it best. It all comes down to coaching. And Torts, I think Torts can. If anyone's gonna coach over dangling out of a player, it's gonna be Torts.
It's Torts.
It's gonna be Torts.
Oh boy, is it Torts. B-Rad's got a question for you here. Trying to think of the guy the Hawks had that was a speeder, and that was it. Was it Victor Stahlberg? I am pretty sure that's who he's thinking of.
I mean,
because Stahlberg was fast.
Stahlberg was pretty fast, but he had a bigger frame too, so he could still power his way through a little bit. But that's probably I think that's probably a good comp.
Yeah. I can't think of who it would be that was speedster and that was it.
No, Teuvo Teravainen was a lot better than that. He was a lot smarter of a player than that.
Just when he was with Chicago, the speed was the biggest thing to his game. Now with Carolina, though.
How good is the right-handed defenseman Chicago prospect pool?
Not as good as the left.
Yeah, not as deep as the left, which is exactly why I have us taking Lemshonov.
Yeah, their left side they've pretty much got figured out.
The
right
fact
side,
that I can't even think of a name off the top of my head, and then when we go left, you got Korchinski, you got I think Vlasic isn't a righty. No, he shouldn't be. I don't think.
I think he's left.
I think he's a lefty. I got to remember, but I mean,
no, I think their right side right now is Seth Jones, and
yeah, that's not a prospect.
Yeah, and Vlasic shoots left, so
yeah, so. I mean,
Vlasic, Del Mastro,
Nikita Zaitsev. No, I'm joking.
Oh, I shouldn't. He's not a bad
fine.
Player. He's fine. He's a fine player.
He's fine.
Michelle and I have a joke that we say to each other: "Are you good or are you fine?"
Yeah, are you good or are you fine?
I'm fine.
I'm fine.
Yeah, he's a fine player. He's not a bad player. He's a fine player.
Oh, I actually hold on. I think I got one for you. I believe he's a right. I think Nolan Allen might be right-handed. Let me see.
Mateo's saying, Elik. Yeah, Elik is somebody who could creep back up into the first round here. And you mentioned him as a late first defenseman to go there. I could see that too. We have a couple guys who
fell out of our first
when we
round,
put this board together. It's like, man, how do we get these last 5 or 6 guys
I take it back.
here? And
I take it back. Nolan Allen shoots left, so it is all lefties.
Okay. Lucas Pettersson, somebody that I think could be there. Cole Hudson is going to be one of the top day 2 names off the board. And again, this is all fun. This is all a thought experiment. We think this is where they could fall.
Yep.
There's no guarantee. We could get 32 of these picks right. We could get 2 of them right. We don't know, and that's part of the fun of it.
What did we get last year? What did we get right?
You know what? I have it up in front of me.
Connor Bedard doesn't count, nor will Macklin Celebrini count this year either. So,
actually, let me back up a minute here because I
thought we got. Was it 5? I think it was 5, maybe 6.
5.
Okay. Was it 3?
But that was 5 exactly right player and team. What killed us was Anaheim going Carlson over Fantilli because we knew those were 2 and 3, but wrong order there. Montreal taking Reinbacher messed things up for us. And then Arizona passing on Michkov.
Yeah,
with him there at 6, messed things up.
We could, Mark and I could do a whole pod on Brandon Buchinski and Chris Versteeg. Oh God, I love Chris Versteeg. Versteeg.
That's one of Joel's favorites.
He was even though I was just starting, a year. Yeah, I started watching hockey the year that Detroit knocked us out in 2009. I remember loving Chris Versteeg that entire next season and being heartbroken, especially as a newer fan, that we traded him right after the cup, only for him to come back and win another cup with us. So it's okay. But
Oh, we got a comment here from Jeff. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Sorry I'm late, but maybe you already discussed this, but the number 25 pick has been used to acquire Bertuzzi, DeBrincat, and Ullmark now in various trades. Why not use it in a trade again in a pick plus prospect? I mean,
not opposed.
No, not opposed. It's just, I guess, if you just got 25 by trading one of your 2 star goalies, like, are you going to then flip it around again to bring in another player? Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed and I could see it, but it seems a little unlikely unless it's kind of just circumstance that it's like, all right, well, we're back in the first round now because, we got a first rounder for Ullmark, but something tells me maybe they want to try and, you guys know more than I do about the Bruins pipeline, but maybe you want to start bolstering it back up.
The cupboards are a little bare. I think if they're trading 25, I don't think it's pick plus prospect. I think it's 2 picks. I think you're moving down from 25 to pick up a second and a third round pick.
Player deal for
that's
a top
kind
6
of
or top 4 guy. You know what? That's it. Connor McDavid to the Bruins confirmed.
There you go for number 25 overall.
Number 25 overall. No, I think that could be pretty good, but I just maybe you want to bolster up the prospect pool a little bit more. But I guess Mark, 2.5 hours, baby.
Oh man, we're so close.
We're close, but I don't think we're actually going to hit it because we have finished the draft.
We have, but I do want to go back to Jeff's question here about 25. I think for example, a team like Chicago that has multiple second and third round picks, if you move 25 and you're able to recoup some additional draft capital, knowing that Boston has 25 and then they don't pick again until the 4th round. If I'm Boston, I'm really thinking, hey, can I try and swing this into a couple more picks here? And maybe you use it as part of an even bigger deal. Maybe just throwing Chicago out there as the example. Maybe you find somebody else in Chicago's system. I'm not saying Nick Foligno or Taylor Hall, but I'm saying if you get somebody that for that bottom 6 role and potentially a bottom 6 center type role, that Boston sends maybe another prospect back, maybe a future draft pick to acquire additional draft capital this year as well. I just think they can't go from 1 to 4 without having some sort of plan in there to try and get a second or a third round pick back. And if that ends up being Boston doesn't trade and holds 25 and figures out another move, or if that's Boston trades 25 to try and get second and third, they just can't have only 1 pick through the first 3 rounds. That's how I see it as somebody who is not associated with Boston. I'm not a Boston fan per se. I'm just somebody who looks at, okay, what are these team situations and what could they potentially do here? I think that makes a lot of sense for Boston from that approach.
Yeah.
And Mark, I agree with you here. Boston's going to be active before Friday night. I do think they try and figure out something here to get an additional pick. Now, is that do you move Brandon Bussey and try and get a draft pick for him? Are you moving Korpisalo to have Bussey be the backup next year, and then you get a draft pick for Korpisalo? That's an option too.
Hot take. Patois. Does he?
They're not moving him.
I know. I just wanted to get them going. Yeah. Cheers. Absolutely.
Jeff, appreciate you tuning in. Hope you come back.
Yeah. I mean, not Mark, but I've had some Bruins fans, talk about potentially trading Patois, but I don't think you do that. Not on a kid who showed so much upside. I don't think you do that unless you're getting back something really, really good.
Well, especially if you're not 100% confident in Fabian Lysell right now.
Right. You know what? We talked about the trades. We'll give you we'll give you our second and third rounder. You give us 25 and Charlie McAvoy.
Yeah, okay. Jeff and Mark are never coming back if that deal goes through.
All right, fine. Actual realism. 25 and Jake DeBrusk.
25 and DeBrusque, I think you're sending more than just a second and a third.
Yeah, it's
I think you're probably talking both seconds at that point, plus maybe you throw in another prospect. Yep, there it is. Shut your face, Joel. We knew it was coming. And Mark gets Joel going, Joel gets Mark going. It's great fun.
Jeff gave us the thumbs up. He'll be back.
Sweet, love it.
Despite my funny trade.
Yeah,
Dan, we're 20 seconds away.
DeBrusque is somebody who has kind of come up in a lot of trade talks for Boston over the last couple of years.
He's been rumored to get traded to Chicago for 2 straight years now.
Yeah, to me that's like the Matt Dumba to Toronto rumors that were going on for like 4 years, but were only ever coming from Toronto fans.
Oh, Toronto fans have the dumbest, and I mean dumbest, trades. Sent you a couple. I think there was one that involved it was It was Marner coming to us for every prospect you could name.
It was Oliver Moore. It was Frank Nazar. It was Sam Renzel, and number 2 overall plus a first rounder next year.
Yeah,
all of that for Mitch Marner.
I'm no.
The one good thing.
I wouldn't even do that if we were a season away from being contenders. I still wouldn't do that.
The one good thing about Cap Friendly going away is that means there are fewer ridiculous trade posts from Leafs fans that we have to see.
You think?
They'll still post them elsewhere, but at least now they're not posting
2.5 hours.
Oh boy, we made it.
Sorry, guys, no rank to blank tonight, and I think you understand why.
I think this is even longer than last year's mock show.
It was. Last year's we ended right at 2 hours.
We put in the work on this one. So.
The other thing, too, was this draft is not as deep, at least maybe. We don't know, but all signs point to not as deep, but it's less. There's less consensus over all of these picks outside of maybe the top 3 or 5. But even then,
anybody 2 through 10 that we had in our mock legitimately could go anywhere in that range, and I would have a hard time arguing against the order.
Lev Shanov at 32 to Philly. No.
If Chicago passes on him at 2, they're not passing on him again at 18.
Yeah, exactly.
Respectfully. I absolutely no.
We're gonna get another Kyle Davidson if we swing that somehow. You pick Demidov instead, and then all of a sudden at 18, Lev Shunov's still there for some reason. You get Kyle Davidson. I can't fucking believe it. I can't believe it.
If you're still with us after 2.5 hours of shenanigans, thank you for tuning in. Seriously, we have a ton of fun putting this together. We appreciate all the comments and views and reactions throughout the show. We love having people come hang out with us and letting us talk stupid hockey nonsense for 2.5 hours. This could all be this very well will be a moot point by this time on Friday night.
Now, Dan, you owe me my $4 that I bet on Yakimchuk going 3rd overall.
Yeah.
You have to Venmo me $4 if I lose that bet now.
Okay, if you win that bet, will you Venmo me the $4 for telling you to do it?
Okay. Since the payout's good enough where that's just chump change.
Yeah, that's cake for you.
Yeah, that's fine. All right.
That's a massive one. Maybe I should say
have
8.
a deal. You have
Maybe
a deal. Nope. We already shook. Tell you
Thank
what,
you to everybody who
5.
joined us tonight. We'll be back next Tuesday night, July 2nd at 8 p.m. We will not go nearly as long next Tuesday night.
But to any newcomers, we had a couple tonight, maybe more that just didn't comment. Subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff. YouTube, go watch the videos. Hit the
all on the bottom of the
bell.
screen here.
Yep, exactly. And that's the thing. To all our newcomers and all the regulars too, we're in the off season now. Tune in because we still got some fun shit for you in the off season.
This is the fun, not quite as analytical hockey talk. This is the mess around and have fun with it.
Where talk. I thrive.
This is Joel is entering peak podcast form.
Yep, it's true. And I was
I get to the draft in the first week of free agency, and then I hand it off to Joel, and it's all what does he want to do for the summer?
Top 5 best sandwiches. Go!
Meatball sub,
No,
Philly
no,
cheesesteak.
it's a tease.
I was just gonna try and come up with 5 off the top of my head.
Jesus, man.
But you got me hungry. Now I want a Philly cheesesteak.
I'm
I want
about
a
to
meatball
eat
sub.
my sandwich that I ordered for dinner 2 hours ago is ready for me.
Oh my! Why did you order it 2 hours ago, knowing we had the pod tonight?
Because it's just a cold sub anyway. It's been in my fridge. It's easy to just take out and eat.
Okay, I guess there's that.
Yeah.
Quick, last one before we go. Cold subs or hot subs?
Oh shit, that's not a quick answer, man. All right,
Think about it. Come back with it for next week's show.
To end the show, the Italian in me says cold.
I can respect that. He's
Baba
Joel.
boopy.
I'm Dan. Enjoy the rest of your night, everybody.
Baba da boopy.